Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs watch along, courtesy our friends at Blue Moon. Made brighter, of course. Luke Stuckmeyer, Cody Delmendo. We will be watching the game with you. Hi to everybody in the live YouTube chat. That's the idea. Tom's here. Becky's here. Vanilla Chill. Hey, what's up? And our guy for the first inning here, Danny Rocket, is in the outfield. How's it going, buddy?
Well, it's going pretty well. I'm out here by my mom's shrine, which many people who follow me on Twitter know that my mom died a few weeks ago. They gave me a giant picture of her I didn't know what to do with. And so when you don't know what to do with a giant picture, you build a shrine. That's what you do. So thanks for having me on to watch this game. And I am on Ball Hawk Corner. So you can see there's Wrigley. So the game has begun. And so how you guys doing?
We're doing good, man. Condolences. I know we've chatted over Twitter and messaging and stuff, but condolences on your mom. Your mom was an influence on you, obviously a huge one. And anybody that's had a great parent or a bad parent, either way, right? You know how important parents can be in somebody's life. I have two great parents. My dad passed away like 11 months ago. You never take it for granted. When you have a great parent, you never take it for granted. You shouldn't, right? And the flip side is true. If you're one of the people, and there are many people out there who, some people have one parent that's great, some people are lucky to have two, some people are up against it and have none. How did your mom influence you growing up and as a Cubs fan?
She was a musician at a church, and she directed the church choir. So pretty much my whole life was spent singing with her, whether it was my sisters in the back seat of the car, doing 3-part harmonies, or Friday nights around the piano because she played and my dad played, and we all would sing all the time, like constantly. And so when we were in the choirs with her, what I kind of witnessed her doing was building a community within her church choir. And those people partied together. They hung out. They helped each other out when they got sick, when they needed something. And so, and that was kind of a church inside of a church, in that way, the choir itself. So, I think that the way that I kind of approach my Cub fandom and my podcast, the Son Ranto Show, is to be very community oriented with it, whether it be raising money for a charitable organization like the Lost Boys, which we've done, or just even like getting everybody together. It's like, Luke, it's how I know you. Cody, it's how I know you, because I love our community and I want to be friends with everybody, and be supportive of you guys whenever you need something. And let me tell you this, sorry to ramble, but people have been so supportive of me since my mother passed away. It's ridiculous. The support for this shrine, if you could see the Obvious shirt that Joe from Obvious Shirts brought out here, I'll come up closer so you can see. But he wrote, he made a shirt that says "Mama Ranter Forever." I don't know if you can see that. There we.
That's awesome.
And it's got the little Son Ranto Cubes fan logo. And then people have left. I'll just go to it. People have left. Ronnie Woo Woo left these flowers, and Janet, who's his friend that kind of takes care of him. People gave me money for these mums. They're like, hey, they Venmoed me $20. They said, go put some flowers out there for me. So I bought these mums. This was original. This original wreath was from the Ranters, that they sent that to the funeral home. And this is the funeral home photo, that none of this would have happened at all if they didn't give it to me. Because, I didn't order this. This just kind of came with the funeral. You know what I mean? So shout out Glucker Funeral Home, that you got a big part in this.
Yeah, right there on Arlington Heights Road.
I think.
Yeah, you know it. And condolences to you too, Luke.
I think it's such a special thing that people came together to do that, and I think that's why this fan base is so different from other fan bases in baseball and in sports in general. I've stood out there on that corner with you and Bleacher Jeff and a handful of other people, Crawley, and, you know, like you said, it is a community. I know on social media sometimes we all kind of bicker at each other if we disagree with stuff, but I do think that there is some community out there that includes a lot of the people that I just said, and the people that you mentioned, my Thai guy as well, like the left field bleachers forever, man. Like, so again, yeah, condolences, and I just think it's really cool that something like that happened. It's you're just not going to see that at many other ballparks surrounded or anything like that. So
I'll be honest. Like, I really thought it was going to be done after that first homestand, if not like a couple nights after I put it.
yeah.
But maybe people think it's bad luck. They don't want like my mom's ghost haunting them or something like that if they remove her shrine. Like some weird Scooby Doo episode. But like but people have come by. Like, I come by in the mornings. Like, I'll water the mums. I'll like put fresh candles or stuff like that because I got the electric candles in there. Because I'm like, it's got to look good. Otherwise, my mom wouldn't be happy. She loved flowers and stuff like that. But I've heard so many people's stories, neighbors from Wrigleyville, people that walk by, they say a prayer, they take a prayer card. There's prayer cards down here. Somebody said they smoked one down here. Maybe they stopped at Sunnyside before they came over here. I know they're a big sponsor. So if you want, hey, Sunnyside, if you want to sponsor the Mom Shrine, you know where to find me, Sun Ranto. Just kidding. Just kidding. But go ahead, Luke.
No, I was just going to say it sort of reminds me of the World Series, right? When everybody was going out to that's the connections for some people is baseball. Obviously the connection for you is way deeper than that, but during the World Series, so many people were going out to cemeteries to either put Cubs flowers down or the run to the World Series, literally listen to the game on the radio, somehow get televisions out there and watch the game. And I like Cody said, I think it's part of what makes this fan base different. We can be a miserable bunch, but we can also be a real special bunch together too.
Yeah, I can be both in the same day.
Me too.
I guess we can kind of switch it up a little bit here. I know a lot of Cubs fans are just so frustrated with this team and everything. And I know before we started, you said you were boycotting Wrigley, which I don't believe. I feel like I will see you at Wrigley before the end of the year.
I'll be there tomorrow.
I was just saying, like, I feel like I might see you there tomorrow, yeah. But obviously a very frustrating season, man. So where would you rank this one in recent years, I guess?
Well, I'm just really bored. This team is so boring. Oh my God. Like, they put me to sleep. I was sitting at the game the other day and I realized I wasn't paying attention. I was talking to these guys from New York who hadn't been to Wrigley. And I looked up and I saw the score was like 4-2 or something. And I was like, I don't even care. Like, there's nothing I'm grabbing onto here. You know what I mean? Like, there's no guy I really want to see bat except for like PCA. There's nobody I really want to see pitch except for like, maybe Imanaga. And then like even Steele coming back was weird because it's like, why? He's hurt. What are you doing? Anyway, it's just like the team is weird. I'm bored by them. It's been a very below average season that had some expectations to it, which makes it even worse. So that's where I'm at. I'm ready for the season to be done. I want something big to happen this offseason. And if it doesn't, we're going to run this crap back out there and we're just stuck with it for another year. But hey, maybe the algorithms and the simulation that we're all living through will go fortuitously next year.
Danny, I said yesterday, 3 years have been won. Right? Like 22, 23, and 24 feel like the longest year. They feel like the heart of COVID, but all include one baseball season. It's been the same thing over and over. What if in the season you start with, if this happens and this happens and this happens, and then 2 of the 3 don't happen, and they're where they are, and they don't make the playoffs, and you go, well, we should have seen that coming. And at some point you're bored, and I could say that about any of the last 3 years.
Yeah. It's just like, I'm just tuning out and it's hard to tune out. Like, you guys do this for a living. I got the Sun Ranto show. I'm trying to remain relevant and like talk about things people want to talk about, but like, what do we even have here, boys? Like, what are we looking at? It's just like, it's a bunch of underperforming, overpaid travel ball, boys, and I am underwhelmed. And so I'm looking like I'm more like this Nationals team we're playing. They've got one of the youngest hitting squads in baseball. And the only reason that their pitching squad is average is because they're either really young or really old. So then if you look at the average age, it's like, right in the middle. Mm-hmm. But like, this is a young, exciting team. And I'm afraid the Nationals will be there before the Cubs. The Brewers are a younger team, and they just won the damn division. So, like, this is unacceptable. Heads should roll. Fire Jed. Fire everybody. Start again. Let's get back to the mountaintop. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, the Nationals are winning, by the way, 1-0 already. Nationals with 2 on.
With 2 on.
2 on, Ruiz at the plate.
Yeah.
Is Assad pitching tonight? I don't even know. That's how checked
Assad
out
is pitching. Yeah, the ass man is on the mound.
I'm ashamed to even know that. I'm ashamed of myself for knowing that.
Yeah.
This team so desperately needs, and I'm going to guess during this watch along and during the post game tonight, I'll probably bring up Ohtani 5 times. Yeah. And I'll bring up Soto. And I'll bring up Harper. But when Ohtani is 6 for 6 in a game with 3 home runs and 2 stolen bases, and he's 50-50 first player in baseball history, you just sit there and go, who in the Cubs lineup? I'm not asking you to even be Ohtani. I asked you to be in on it. I asked you to outbid everybody for him and try and convince them that money was more important than living in L.A. But I just want a superstar. And if that next guy is Soto, then you have to overpay to go get him. And that's the price of being the Chicago Cubs. And that's the price of being a baseball team. Look at the Dodgers. You have Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman. They have 3 superstars just there alone on the team. The Cubs don't have a superstar. Every good team. The Yankees have at least 2, if not 3. You have multiple superstars on every good team. That makes me feel that even if PCA could develop, and he might, into a superstar, there's still 1 or 2 superstar players away. And that's an eternity in baseball. You can't just expect to develop that guy over and over. If you're just sitting around waiting for Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Kyle Schwarber, Javi Baez, Wilson Contreras, all those guys to come up out of your own system at the same time, then we're going to be here another 108 years. That's what's going to happen.
Might be even longer. Can I leave you with this? Because I actually have to run off to rehearsal. Yeah. I'm actually doing a Golden Girls parody for Helen Handbag Productions. Little plug for that. But all these people walking down the street, they're all heading into Wrigley Field tonight on a Thursday night at the end of fall to watch a team that's not going to make the playoffs. And until that changes and until these people stop like guzzling $20 beers at a clip, I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of change unless somebody comes through with a new idea. So they're making money in there. The question, will they spend it on the team? And I agree with you, Luke, they should. We need at least 1 star, if not multiple, like the teams that are really making a run for it. So
I'll say this, Danny. I'm going to join you in replying to every single one of Pete Ricketts' tweets all offseason.
Nice. Yeah, it's his fault. He owns the team. I don't want to hear it about no price gouging in Nebraska when he's gouging me every day. Like, that doesn't play.
I'm going to stay away from the politics of it all, but I'm just going to tell him every single day of the offseason to sign Juan Soto. That's all I'm going to do.
Exactly. Yeah. It'll be good for farm subsidies. Just tell them some lie. It's politics. You don't have to tell the truth.
Exactly.
So, all right.
We'll let you go. We're glad to see you smiling. Tip of the cap to the Mom Shrine. Keep it going strong.
Thanks to everybody that's been supportive of me, too. I just got to really put that out there. The ranters, you guys, all the Twitter people, the ball hawks, they're watering the flowers. Just everybody that's been involved. It's just a testament to our fan base, and I love you all. So,
all right, thanks, Danny. Have a good night, man. We appreciate you jumping on.
Peace. Rock and roll.
Great San Ranto, if you follow him on Twitter. Sun Ranto. We haven't decided which it really is.
Yeah. He's the San Rano podcast is one of my favorites to go on because it's just a bunch of people probably even more crazier than me. And if that's something that you like, I definitely would recommend tuning in because it's just Cubs fans ranting. That's why he's wearing a hat that says Rancher. It's like part of their bit. It's just Cubs fans who are always they always have a gripe about something. I don't blame them because this team hasn't made the playoffs since 2018. I haven't won a playoff game since 2017. It's been a long time since the Cubs have met the standard that they set themselves. So, yeah, Danny's a great dude. I know he can rub a lot of people on social media the wrong way sometimes, but I think sometimes he does it on purpose. But he's a good dude, and the fact that the city or the Cubs or whoever have kind of let that shrine stay out there after his mom passes, it's really nice.
It is nice. It's certainly better than taking the Ron Santos stuff and throw it in the dumpster.
That's true.
Right?
That's
beats
definitely
that. There's
true.
no question about that.
So Ryan Herrera is going to join us in the second inning.
Oh, okay.
That's what he said in our group chat, actually.
Oh, beautiful.
And I guess related to this game, the ass man, who's been so good with runners on base this year,
did get out of it again.
Yeah, I mean,
Mostly.
1-0.
Yeah.
Mostly could have been worse, sure.
But
Cubs,
there's a base hit. 2 on
back-to-back
for the
hits here.
Cubs.
Back-to-back hits here. We got Swanson the third. Say it with a 1-out single, 107 miles per hour. So there's a reason that we asked all these people to come on this thing. And let's just make it, like, put it bluntly, like, me and you don't really care what happens in this game. I care about, like, what PCA does.
Well, now that's
what do you, okay.
Absolutely not true, Cody.
There are things
what
that we
do
want.
I care about?
You want fast games,
Okay.
no injuries,
Fast game.
and the bullpen to continue to be good.
I want it to be
we
fast
listed them.
and furious.
We listed them the other day. Yes. So
10 things. We did the 10 things on the podcast yesterday.
Yes.
10 things we'd like to see in the last 10 games. This is number 10 right here. Yeah, I had fast games. I had no injuries. I had young relievers to play well. I had Ryan singing the 7th inning stretch. What was my other one? Oh, I want to see Owen Casey getting at bat.
Yeah.
Remember when these teams used to play in the playoffs?
Yeah. The Patrick Corbin contract, I think you can definitely make the argument that is significantly worse than the Hayward one for the Cubs. Patrick Corbin had what, like 1-2 good years maybe with the Nationals? He helped them win the World Series in 2019, but he's not been very good these last handful of years.
You're saying what I was saying to Danny Rocket. I know, 3 home runs, 6 for 6, 2 stolen bases for Ohtani.
I didn't realize he hit 3 homers today.
Yeah, 3 homers.
I thought he hit 2.
Now he's 51-51. 51 homers, 51 stolen bases.
Becky says, Luke, Cody, are you doing postgame?
Oh,
we will do postgame.
You know what? And we're going to be eating pizza live on YouTube.
I cannot wait for this pizza to get here. Yeah.
Slay, Emma. That's what we do.
All we do is slay.
Well, put the sandwich in the fridge. Well, I don't know how much pizza we ordered. It might not be the kind you like. So I'd put the sandwich in the fridge and wait and see what kind of pizza it is.
Yeah. I had sweet greens earlier.
Sweet greens, you know I like sweet greens.
I know. Luke and I are big sweet greens people.
I like sweet greens. It just gets a little expensive.
Balance. Yeah.
You know?
Nothing like a salad and a pizza.
Sarah and Emma here. Emma's social media superstar, and Sarah's running the 1s and 2s while we watch 1-1.
Did you see the video of Braggs and Carm?
What were they doing? Like, was that the Macarena?
I think we need to do a version.
I didn't turn up.
I'm
not doing it.
We need a version of you and like Jay Zawaski.
I turned it on. I watched it. I looked at it. And I thought, these are 2 uncoordinated old white guys that are embarrassing.
That's why it's funny. That's honestly why it's funny. Yes.
What was it? The Macarena? I didn't turn up the music. I was so.
No, it wasn't the Macarena.
I was so turned off.
CHGO Sports on TikTok. It's up there.
Emma is going to make a special appearance at some point during the watch along.
That's why we put
the pizza right there,
just so people are aware. So
she's gonna jump on.
That's called a tease.
She's got one of our hoodies on. She's wearing one of our hoodies.
Sarah just pulled a U.
Yeah, that was a tease.
Just called that's what
TV
tease. We got 20 people watching.
Look at this.
They'd rather listen to us than Boog and JD. Credit to you.
Niren says sweet greens is more like lettuce mostly. I don't get lettuce. I do kale.
Yeah, I do kale too.
Mine too.
I did.
That's the only
kale,
way. The only way I'll ever eat kale.
They have
Just
a
kinda
new.
lost
If
the
you
ball
order
and then found
online,
it.
you get
That guy
the
looks
buffalo
really short.
chicken kale salad, but you can only get it if you order through the app at Sweetgreens. It's really good.
I got a question for you, Sarah and Emma, if she wants to chime in, and Cody. We have pizza on the way. We know it'll be cut Chicago style, squares, the way it should be, right? I don't know where it's coming from. I'm hoping it's from, somewhere good. I don't know if it's deep dish. I don't know if it's thin crust. Let's assume that it's squares and it's thin crust, right? Do you like the middle pieces or the edges?
Edges
at first, and then once I'm a little more full, I'll eat the middle pieces.
Cody?
So I don't get greedy.
I'm an edges guy first.
Oh, we got a huge problem because we all like the edges.
Yeah.
See, my
first-
marriage is the perfect marriage because my wife likes the center pieces and I like the edges.
That is perfect marriage.
And she gets hers gluten free. So
whenever
I have the whole pizza.
whenever I get those, when I get those pizzas, I always go for the small corner.
Oh yeah,
small
the little
corners first
the tiny triangle is
That
the
you-
best piece.
that you can like eat in like one bite.
It gives you a little. It gives you a little. It's like a mix between a pizza and a cracker,
Yeah,
which is what I like about it.
yeah.
So, listen, if somebody tries to go for those little triangles tonight and it's the pizza I want, your hand will be slapped.
You gonna join us for when Ryan Herrera
Where's Emma?
joins us? No, you can.
No.
you can
What
stay.
are you drinking there? That's
got
not
us-
a blue moon. You should be having a blue moon if you're going to drink
I
anything.
should be
Although
having
I'm
a Blue
drinking
Moon.
watered down leftover
I
iced tea.
should have a Blue Moon.
You should.
What is that?
Sarah wants to go get me a
What
Blue
is
Moon.
what is that?
It's La
Is that an energy drink of some
Siciliana.
kind?
No, I do not need that right now. I need to go to bed tonight. So it is.
I did one today. And I had a tea.
Oh, usually I do too, or a
had-
coffee and an energy drink.
Oh,
And
I had
today
an
we just
Alani
went
today.
one energy
what I
drink.
had, a
Those
lot.
are the best.
Oh, you had a,
What's-
is Kate getting you in on
no,
Alani's?
no. My brother-in-law. I'm
Oh,
confident
okay.
that if I showed it to my wife, she would say that is still or my doctor. They would still say that is horrible for you, no matter what it says
Yeah.
on the can. But it's no added sugars. It's
Thanks,
zero
Sarah.
sugar. It's got a lot of caffeine, like 200 milligrams of
I'll have one
caffeine.
at some
No,
point.
But it doesn't have all the sugar that some of the other ones have. So I'm hoping it's slightly better. I had the peach flavored.
I was
was good.
drinking a C4 that I didn't realize had 300 milligrams of caffeine. That's supposed to be like a pre-workout. So I have to stop. I had to stop drinking those.
Shout out
Because I'd have
C4.
shout out C4. We love C4.
Oh yeah, well, I
We do
love
love-
C4.
Love
no one
C4.
loves C4 around here.
No,
like
I
we
have
do.
one every
Listen,
single day.
I took Alani because I couldn't get a C4.
Yeah. No, I wait until I
C4.
get into the office and take one from the closet. The Starburst flavor. But yeah, 300 milligrams plus a coffee or another energy drink. Not good for me.
300 mils.
Is Ryan Herrera calling us yet? I'm surprised he hasn't rung the bell. He texted, "Should I hop in right after this?
Oh yeah,
And
jump in.
After this inning," and I said yes.
Becky says, I will always remember when Bodie hit the walk-off grand slam against the Nationals. What's your favorite moment against the Nationals? I hope it's a playoff game.
My favorite moment
And Niren
against the
says Kale is
Nationals-
in the lettuce family.
the,
Oh, sure.
the
but it's not.
very the
romaine.
game 5 of the 2017 NLDS is like another version of Game 7 of the
See,
2016.
If
World
you tell
Series.
me those numbers, my old mind, I don't know what happened in that game. Now, if you tell me the game, I'll be like, oh, yeah, I knew that. But I didn't know it was that game of that
So
series.
Game 5 of the NLDS against the Nationals in 2017 was the winner. Like you moved on. If
Yeah.
you did.
Okay.
And like that chaos happened that entire game. Scherzer came in with a lead out of the bullpen.
Okay,
and
yeah.
he blew
I remember
the game.
that. I remember that part.
Yeah. Wade Davis strikes out Bryce Harper to end the game.
Wade Davis.
Cubs legend Wade
Yeah,
Davis.
Wade Davis.
Yes. That's we don't talk
yeah.
about 2017 enough because like they didn't win the World Series that year and it was after the year after. But that
That's a good
season,
team.
That team was good, even though like the first 3 months of the year they were like 500 and kind of underperforming. But they took off in that second half, and the Quintana trade happened, and he had that great game against the Orioles, and we all thought that he was going to be awesome, and then he was pretty mid after that.
After talking about energy drinks and, how you like your pizza, and we had Danny Rocket on talking Mom Shrine and on disappointment in the Cubs, how do we only have 6 likes for this?
We
Watch
need more
along.
likes.
I was literally
Is-
going to
More
like
likes.
the
The way we're
stream.
slaying it right now.
We're slaying it so hard. Slaying it.
We have recorded audio of Luke saying the way we're slaying it. This has to go on the internet.
That's a home run.
Oh, it has to.
Nope. Oh, nice
yeah.
catch.
Ooh.
Ian Happ almost.
Now that's a play right there you would put on his Gold Glove reel. If he wins a Gold Glove, that's one of the catches right there. That was a really nice play.
I don't think he caught that. I think that went foul. Luke.
Oh, well, then it wasn't. You don't put it on his reel. He didn't catch that? I thought he caught it.
I thought it was.
We wouldn't have the audio up.
Yeah.
Did he catch it?
Did Ryan join then leave?
I heard the.
Slay, Josh.
His
What up,
camera was
Josh?
bad.
There he is again.
There he is.
Go, Emma, Josh says.
Sarah's BF. Slay.
So
Slay.
You're right. He didn't catch that.
Major
I take it all
slay.
back. That wasn't a tremendous play.
One of my favorite things to do is slay is Major Slazer. You guys know Major Lazer? All right.
There he is.
With Dre Day says
At
Panera
beautiful
Death
historic Wrigley
Lemonade.
Field.
What's Panera Death Lemonade?
Oh, it's like the charged lemonade, like a teenage girl literally because she drank
This
like
is a true
charged
story.
lemonade.
What do you mean charged lemonade?
It's like their energy lemonade. Like
Panera was
with-
selling an energy
and
drink?
it killed someone.
They don't sell it
I
anymore.
can't
Oh,
believe they
no,
were selling
no.
an energy drink.
Yeah, no, it's energy lemonade. This is what
Sounds
Ryan
nice.
walked
Oh,
into.
wait, is Ryan wearing a Hawaiian?
It's got foxes on it.
What are
I
those?
thought it was shrimp when I first wore it until someone pointed out that they were foxes.
I mean, it sort of looks like a Hawaiian, and then I started wondering, and don't get me wrong, I'll still wear white after Labor Day. I'm wondering if it's, cool after Labor Day. By the way, if somebody tells you something like that, so let's say you're wearing white pants or a white shirt, whatever it might be, that is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. If someone if you want to wear a white shirt all year round or white pants, who cares?
Like, do it.
You got to be a trendsetter.
Trendsetter.
Seriously,
You
I
should
wore
start
white
wearing
jeans
white
last
pants every
weekend.
day.
You want me to wear white pants?
Yeah.
I don't own
Do
a
it.
pair, but see, I'm not against
You
it.
should get 5 pairs and wear them on the show
White
every
pants
week.
every day.
Every day. I think
Painters
we'd get
do.
more
They
views.
show up in white pants
do.
all the time.
We'd get
do.
more views if Luke Stuckmeyer showed up here and wore white pants every day.
We got the white overalls, Cubs overalls that you can put on.
That's for Cody. Ryan, where are you doing this from? Is Gallagher way behind you?
Yeah, actually, I'm just like right up at the top of the stands next to the press box over here.
Oh yeah, I like that view. Very nice.
People
Yeah,
are
I know.
arguing. People are arguing. Right outside there is that new McDonald's. What are we
No.
like? Do you like that McDonald's more than the famous one?
Do I like? Oh no, I mean the other one's
Better than
fine.
the
Yeah.
old McDonald's?
Do you like the new McDonald's with all the kiosks?
The
Basically.
one in the one like right next to the hotel. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because that's where you're
exactly.
standing.
Yeah, I mean the other one had nostalgia factor. Oh, there was an out that just happened. So you guys will see that. It's kind of loud up here. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. I love that
Some of the
McDonald's.
Some of the people listening aren't having a great time, but
Plenty of people are happy to see your face. I have to give them credit.
Niren with Dre Day is here. Joshua's here. Becky's been here. The stereotypical stereotype show is here.
Omar
is here.
Ugh.
So there are people. Now we're up to 10 thumbs up. So that's good.
We hit double digits.
By the way, what do you think of this, Ryan? Niren says he wants you to ask this question, which I know you won't, but that's understandable. Niren says 6 full seasons, the Brewers have outclassed the Cubs. Ask Jed why fans should have any confidence in him. He's been here for all of it. Well, part of it was definitely designed rebuild, but that rebuild has taken longer than I would assume at this point. Do you agree with this? At this point, Jed would have to agree that the retool or rebuild or whatever he called it back then has taken longer than he had hoped.
People are clapping. It's the military salute right now. Kind of loud. All right. Shout out Joe Panza. Military salute.
What's happening to
What
Ryan?
he's saying.
Hang up on Herrera.
Ryan, we will see you at postgame, man. We can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Ryan.
I know. It's because it's very loud in here.
Are you going to answer the question?
Yeah, I was gonna say once the clapping stops, I'll answer the question. Yeah, I mean that's honestly a fair question. I don't know that the rebuild is taking longer than hoped. Maybe.
Yeah.
That's a good question, honestly. I do think Nieren has a point that I also think that Jed is he's someone who does at least claim to self-evaluate a lot. So I think it would do well to be like, the Brewers are doing this for 6 years. Like you mentioned, Luke, obviously they had 2-3 years of the Cubs' time there was spent retooling, rebuilding, whatever Jed wants to call it. But like, I think it's fair to ask, like, the last couple of years haven't made it to the playoffs, and that was the goal. Well, yeah, why should fans trust you to be the one to get this done? I think that's a fair way to ask him to kind of self-evaluate what he's done the last 4 or 5 seasons, whatever he's been in charge.
You should ask that at his. You should ask a better, like maybe an
end of season
press conference. You should ask a form of that question, like, why should fans have trust in you?
Maybe not trust in you. Why should fans have trust that this is going to work?
Yeah, or like
what you're doing is working.
Yeah, something like that.
Anyways.
Yes, I don't think I maybe wouldn't word it exactly how Nieren did, but I think the general point of the question is fair.
Yeah.
Imagine if he just asked it exactly like Nieren did.
What if he just said, "This is from Nieren in the live YouTube chat"?
Yeah.
Oh man, sore shoulder here. All right, Ryan. Well, the audio's not great. We'll let you go. It looks like a nice night, at least at the ballpark. Good weather out there. Feel good?
Yeah. It's mid 80s or whatever. Wind's not blowing in like it's been for the last 2 months. So it's kind of nice. It is one out the left field though.
Were there brownies in the press box?
As usual, there were brownies in the press box. I didn't eat any of them though.
Are they good?
Oh, they're good.
Is there
brownies.
always brownies in the press box?
Yeah, pretty much.
For 2.5 years, Luke.
There are, but if you let Bruce Levine get near them, there aren't brownies very long. Let me tell you, Bruce gets after those bad boys.
Ryan,
which is crazy. He's a very
Sully,
small person.
You let Sully stuffing them in his pockets. It's craziness.
Ryan, did you eat a brownie?
Paper towel.
Why?
That Raisin Cane's and stuff.
If you see Sully, if Sully's there tonight, you tell Paul Sullivan we got to get him back on the podcast soon.
I'm sure he'll be here this weekend, but he'll be back here before the season ends. So.
Oh yeah,
I'll talk to him.
To ask the tough questions. He'll be there. All right, sounds good. Thanks, Ryan.
See you post game.
Ryan will join us in the post game after he gets his interviews in the
Big clubhouse
clubhouse
to let him
and hears
join.
from.
I think I told him third inning, so I guess the faster the Cubs suck here, which I don't want them to. I'd rather them score some runs here so we have some entertainment. But the faster they get these 3 outs, the sooner our guy. Jake Banowski joins.
Oh, nice.
Who's been on our show.
Yeah.
The OGs know that he's been on our show because he came on our show year 1 of CHGO Cubs.
Came in studio.
He came in studio. Came all the way from Madison, Wisconsin.
He was on the anniversary of the Kerry Wood game, right? Because his dad was the K-Signs.
Yeah. And
his late father made the K-Signs for the Kerry Wood game.
And Kerry Wood just had an event at Obvious Shirts, and he signed one of the signs. I think it's the second time he's actually met Kerry Wood. But it's been a really long time.
But he signed a couple of them. He gave a couple of them. He's got all the signs. He gave a couple to Kerry Wood.
So it's kind of like a full circle thing for him and his family. When his dad is now passed, he's been passed for a while, and
I would think that's a cool thing for Kerry Wood as well to have a couple of those signs, the original ones from his game. Like, what other memorabilia that you didn't already have, whether it was the spikes and stuff. I'm also curious, and we can ask Jake this. Has the Hall of Fame never reached out to him? A 20 strikeout game, the Hall of Fame's never asked for a K sign? And would he give him one of the signs? He gave 2 to Kerry Wood. Would he give one to the Hall of Fame if they asked?
This game happened in May of 1998. Were you alive yet?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
2002.
Do you know who Kerry Wood is?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Just me.
All right. I do.
2002. That makes me feel old.
My sister wasn't even born yet in May of 1998.
Wow.
She was born in July of 1998.
Let's ask while we wait for Jake. Let's just like ask Emma the hard hitting questions about her Cubs fandom because I know she's a Cubs fan. She comes to every Friday 120.
She does go to the 120s. Yeah,
I mean, she's not coming tomorrow, which I'm very sad about. But
I know. I'll be there next Friday.
So you're originally from like California, right? That's where you're born.
Yes, I'm originally from Los Angeles.
So I'm assuming that you only really started following the Cubs when you moved to Chicago.
I mean, my mom's from Chicago, so I'd grow up coming here. I'd grow up going to Wrigley Field in the summers when I'd literally spend 2 or 3 months of the summer here. So I wasn't like die hard growing up, but I was always like a Cubs fan. Wasn't really a Dodgers fan. That's
good.
Yeah, when the Dodgers played the Cubs in the playoffs in 2016.
Yep.
I wore a Cubs jersey to Dodger Stadium. And yeah, no, I've grown up loving the Cubs. I remember watching the game, the World Series game. I made cookies and I brought them to my school the next day of the Cubs logo. So, nice. It's in my blood. So,
all right.
Yeah.
I see in the live YouTube chat, Matt McIntyre says, so this isn't actually a watch along. I don't know what he means.
We're watching the game.
As in like that we're not watching the game? I'm watching. It's 1-1. It's in the second. It's like, here's the way I described it. Someone asked you, like, what is the watch along? Are we doing play-by-play while the game's going on? No, we assume you have a television like we do.
Exactly.
All we're doing is hanging out while the game is on. That's all we're doing. And if the three of us were to go to Murphy's and watch the game, would you sit there and watch every pitch and, like, break down and analyze every pitch of a meaningless baseball game? No, we'd be talking about everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
This is like if we're sitting at the bar,
We might be talking about the Bears. The next thing we know, we might be talking about Shannon Sharp having sex on Instagram. Right?
Oh, I get. Yeah, no, true. Real.
Allegedly.
No, that shit was definitely happening, brother. That shit was definitely happening. He even basically confirmed it on his own podcast that night.
Michelle Beadle said it was not her. Okay, all of it.
It sounds like Michelle Beadle missed out.
Now, the question is, how does he screw that up? Did he do it on purpose? We're in a commercial break. This got nothing to do with baseball. Did Shannon Sharp do that on purpose? You're the social media expert.
I saw someone say online that like he was just trying to record it and he's not very tech savvy. So then all of a sudden he ended up on Instagram.
You think it was just like an old guy mistake?
That's how he did.
Because what?
How was he?
That's how he explained it on the Nightcap or whatever his podcast.
He was just trying to record the audio?
No, I have no, like, it's very purposeful starting an Instagram live, so I am confused.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like it was on camera. You could hear what was going on, right?
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know.
I didn't hear the whole thing.
I saw the videos.
Cody's watched it a couple times.
The videos came up on my For You side on Twitter. It's the only reason I know anything about it, all right? I don't follow Shannon Sharp on Instagram. All I know is that the video showed up and, like, the camera is just pointed up like at a ceiling. And
that's what I'm saying.
And then the audio definitely
that's
shows.
So if it's a mistake and he was trying to record and make some sort of sex tape, then what is he shooting the ceiling? He's really bad at it if he's shooting the ceiling.
That's crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
He's really bad at it. He's just
and the other is true. Was he was he flipping through Instagram before he...
Right, because it's kind of hard. You have to like purposefully choose the live stream on Instagram. You have to like go into the stories.
Is he just laying there going, hold on, let me go through my Instagram real quick. Like,
literally.
What? Anyway, it is the third inning. And Matt says Miguel Amaya made his best throw of the season, something we've been waiting to see.
Yeah.
And no comment at all. Sorry, Matt.
We saw it.
Sorry. But we did see it. We
saw it. It was a nice play.
Yeah. Jake is here. He's
Matt,
just been waiting.
Matt, what do you think about Shannon Sharp having sex on Instagram?
What a way to come in, Stucky.
Oh my God, I'm totally going to snort
Jake Winowski joins us.
Jake, what was your thought on the Miguel Amaya throw?
Honestly, I had the same thought. It was like, wow, that is what we've been waiting for all season. But he has had some caught stealings in recent memory. He's looked better behind the plate. And one thing that I got to point out, the dude's coming off of Tommy John surgery. So let's not take his throwing numbers too seriously this season. Let's give him a little bit more time. Although we would have liked to see better, but
that's fair. Hadn't thought of that.
That is fair. Since we're starting with talking ball here, do you think he is a backup catcher for next year? Do you think the Cubs should be trying to get a catcher this offseason, whether it's going back to those trade talks with the Angels for Logan O'Hoppe, or
the guy from the A's the other night, is he a free agent, Langoliers?
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't think so. I don't think either of those guys, because Langoliers and Soderstrom are both. Soderstrom I don't think is going to catch anymore, as we saw in the series, but he came up as a catcher, I believe. And you know, man, it's tough to say. First of all, thanks you guys for having me back. It's great to be back with the CHGO gang. It was really excited when Cody reached out to me. Despite the doldrums of the season that we've just recently entered, it's always good to talk some ball. I don't know, man. I think like we saw such a great hot stretch from Amaya, and I want to believe that he could take the bulk of the starting load and be a solid piece for the Cubs. And the catcher market just doesn't really intrigue me. Like, I really like Logan O'Hoppe. I think Cody knows I'm an avid fantasy baseball player, and I've got O'Hoppe on a handful of teams, but he even, his performance has been kind of streaky, and he hits the ball hard, but he's strikeout prone. And, you look at his OPS, last I checked, I think it was in the 770 range, which plays pretty well at catcher, but I don't know the defensive metrics. I don't know what it would cost to acquire him. Remember, the Angels traded for him from Philly as well, so they've got some assets invested in him as well. I don't know, man. I think the catching position is tough, but you look around the league and there are a lot of young catchers coming up, so you wonder if the Cubs might have something in Ballesteros, or if they can take a flyer on a throw-in minor league catcher in some other deal that they make this offseason. It'll be interesting to see.
I think it's like, okay, if you want to go into next season and say Amaya's our guy and Mo Baller's the backup, a veteran's the backup, whatever that might be.
Barry Bonds, Christian Bethancourt.
That's okay. You can have that. What if we hope to see this guy takes the next step just like they did last year? But then you can't have that at multiple positions. You can't have it at 4 other positions or 3 other positions. You can't have that at third and first. Now, it worked out at first. But if you look at first, third, and catcher, this season, 99% of the time, it only worked out at first. Mm-hmm. Right? Yep. You can't have that. If you're serious about winning a division and being a real player in a postseason, you can't have that many, well, if the guy takes the next step. Mm-hmm. Now, you can easily say the same thing about, I believe in PCA, and I think I've seen some good things, but PCA hasn't been the whole season. So you still have a bit of, you're still going to enter next season with some unproven things about PCA in center field as an offensive guy, right? You're still not going to be totally proven that Michael Busch is your guy at first base. Why? Because there's lots of guys that have a good rookie season and then don't turn out to be that great of a player. It happens.
Yeah.
So I already feel like you have, well, I got to prove it in center and I got to prove it again at first. And now you're going to tell me I might have to prove it again at catcher. I don't disagree with what Jake's saying in that it's hard to find it, but man, that's why Jed's getting paid the big bucks. You got to go out and make some bold moves. I don't know how he's going to do it, but he better find some real answers for next season. One of the reasons we were saying before Jay came on that we always want to talk to you, but I thought that was really cool that you got to, for the people that are just tuning in now, your late father was the man who held up the K signs during Kerry Wood's strikeout game. Came up with the signs, came up with the idea. We talked about it here in the podcast. Mm-hmm. You went to the obvious shirts thing. What's Kerry Wood's reaction when you show up with the K signs and how did it all go down there?
So as DJ Ricks mentions, the nice no catch by Happ, that's tough to see. That was a tough liner, tough slicing liner, but a Gold Glover makes that play, and he is a Gold Glover. But I, yeah, it's funny because Joe had put me in touch with Carrie's wife Sarah because there was kind of a snafu in the booking. So Joe knew that I was going to be involved in the autograph signing. I licensed the K's to him, and he will be announcing, I believe, tomorrow what's going on with that. So keep an eye on obvious shirts, and of course I'll be reposting. But I asked Sarah if she thought that Carrie would want a couple of the original signs from the game, because I didn't want to assume, right? I didn't want to just show up with a couple signs and him be like, him feel obligated to take them. But she had a really enthusiastic response, and Carrie did as well. And it was a pretty brief meeting, just a few minutes. You guys know how autograph signings are, but I kind of think that if it were any longer, if it were a setup meeting, I think we kind of both didn't really know what to say. I think there was a lot that we both probably wanted to say, but he was so appreciative. To my knowledge, I think he's maybe seen some of the originals because the Cubs have a couple, the Hall of Fame has one, and then a couple close family friends do too. So I'm sure he's seen them at some point, but now they're in his possession, which I think is where they belong. So it was really a great opportunity, and I got a couple signed for the family, and really, really thankful that Joe got that set up for us.
That's really cool. I was wondering that question, if whether or not the signs had made their way to the Hall of Fame. So at some point you gave one, the Hall of Fame asked and you gave one to him, or the Cubs gave it to him?
So a family friend of ours that was good buddies with my dad, he watched the signs for a while. He had the signs in his possession for a while, and he ran when we had a family charity case for kids. This guy, Brad Hoffvander, who's also in the 20 documentary, he reached out to the Hall of Fame on our behalf and asked them if they'd be interested in a sign. And they got back to him, and he sent, I think it's a blue one. And of course, the archives at the Hall of Fame, stuff gets moved around pretty frequently. So I actually haven't been to Cooperstown because it's kind of it's not the most convenient place to get to. Road tripping is, road tripping is probably the best way to get there. But my aunt went last summer and the K was not out, but still cool that it's there. I mean, it's an incredible honor for our family, and I know my dad would be really excited that something that he made on a whim, 20 some years ago is in the Hall of Fame, enshrined with the greatest to ever play the game.
Or that it made it into the hands of Kerry Wood. My guess is Kerry's gonna have it, in his man cave. Like he's gonna have those hanging in his man cave. Your dad would be pretty thrilled to be like, man, I held this up in the outfield. We did this. Not only is it in the Hall of Fame, it's in the hands of Kerry Wood. The whole thing's just kind of a cool story. I'm glad it went down that way, and I'm glad you still have some, right? Yeah, so
the
two that were signed for sure.
Yeah, so we have 8 of the originals. Just kind of rattling off close family friends, including Crawley. Crawley was actually one of my dad's students, so Crawley's got one of the Ks. And then Ken Kiefer out in the left field bleachers in 504 was good buddies with my dad too, so he's got one as well. So cool that a couple guys that are noteworthy Cubs fans and do a lot for the team and other fans that they have them in their possession too. I know that they really appreciate them, and the fact that they knew my dad, I think, really adds to it.
I hope I'm not asking a question you already answered, but when you walked up to Kerry Wood the other day, what was the conversation?
Yeah, so I introduced myself, and I told myself I wasn't going to be nervous. I was like, he's just a dude. He's just a guy.
Just a dude.
Yeah, I mean, just a guy that happened to be able to throw a baseball really, really well. Sorry if I missed some of your comments too, guys. For whatever reason, I'm not picking up everything off the mics. Yeah, it was. I introduced myself. I'm like, "Hi, I'm Jake Banowski," and because I didn't want to assume that he knew it was me, because I didn't have the K's out. I had them in a black garbage bag. But I kind of blacked out then for a second after that. Don't really know the next few words that were exchanged. The coolest thing that he did was I think he appreciates the kind of craziness that it happened. For those that don't know, it was the first time that my dad brought the signs out. Happened to be the 20K game. So I don't know how long the idea had been baking, or how long he'd had the Ks. If he maybe could have brought it out to the previous start. Happened to bring him out there, and I think Carey really understands the kind of he kind of had like an awe feeling about it. I mean, I can't even imagine the whole culmination of what happened for him that day. 20-year-old kid strikes out 20 against a Hall of Fame, lineup containing 2 Hall of Famers and a lot of Hall of very good players, and just dominant. And then for that to be happening on top of it and be a narrative woven through that game and now the continued storytelling of that game, and for it to be, as wild an occurrence, as chance an occurrence as Carey's outing that day. He kind of spoke to that. And then my dad, I kind of talked about this in the documentary, but my dad continued to send letters to Carey Wood, which I can't imagine what his reaction was. Like, who's this dad sending me letters? But what Carey said, and I think it was good that we met at this point in our lives, because now Carey's a dad. He's been removed from the game, gets to watch as a fan. I'm older. I kind of understand the perspective that my dad had, and also kind of can understand, maybe Carey's perspective as a guy getting the letters from this random Cubs fan. But the coolest thing he said was, "Your dad believed in me more than I did," which I think he said in the documentary, but to hear it from him face to face was really cool. And you could tell that, it's probably something that he's talked about before, which is kind of wild. Just the way that he said it and had it ready to go was pretty cool. So I'm sure, I don't know, Luke, I'm sure you've met Carey. Cody, I don't know if you guys have met Carey, but just a really nice dude, and it made the moment really easy.
He's a very quiet guy, right? Mm-hmm. Like he's not real boisterous. He's not, but I think here's what I guess out of it. I'm sure that as a kid, he didn't know what to make of the letters, and he thought, wow, it's kind of, all these fans are sending me stuff. Some of those players get boxes of stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some players go through none of it. Some of them have somebody go through it. Some go through a few letters in it. My guess is that you're right. This is the perfect time for this to happen. Like, if it happened during his playing days, Carey would have been uncomfortable with it. I don't think he loves talking about the 20 strikeout game anymore. I think that day is not something that he actually likes coming around every year. He does it because people want to talk about it. I don't think it's his favorite thing. But as you said, he is now a father. His son just pitched for New Trier. He's going through the fatherhood thing, and I think he now can look at, here's a fan and his son and their relationship, what these signs now mean to you, what they meant to your dad, but now what they mean to you, and his relationship with his kid. I think it's a way more meaningful thing. Sometimes some things take a while to happen, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes in life, everybody wants instant gratification. Everybody does. We all do. You want the new car today. You want the new house today. You want to have the new Jordans tomorrow.
I'm not wearing Jordans, but
right?
I would like Caleb Williams to be better.
We all want everything today. We don't want to wait for it tomorrow. We don't want to hear anybody to tell us it's going to take 10 years. In my thinking, I guess that this happened at the right time, exactly when it was supposed to happen, and I'm happy it did.
Thank you. No, thank you, Luke. Yeah, I really quick. If you need the new car today, I we've got buddies over at Ray Chevrolet you can hit up in Fox Lake.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Ray CDJR on Route 12 in Fox Lake.
Yes.
Too easy.
Yeah.
Danny did the sunny side, and then Jake just gave us Ray CDJR. Let's go.
I didn't do the full read, but you put it right out there for me, Stucky.
That's right. I hope you're enjoying the Blue Moon.
I wish I had some Blue Moon in the fridge. Brewed for baseball. It was really cool, guys, and Luke, I had the same thought that you did about Kerry with the 20K game and maybe his thoughts on it. And I don't know if he'll ever speak candidly about it. He doesn't, and of course he doesn't have to. But the way that I think about it is like, and even now being lucky enough to be tangentially connected to it. I get excited for it in a way every year, obviously, but at the same time, too, now we're getting further and further removed from it. And the way that I thought about it was like, is it kind of like a band who's viewed as a one-hit wonder? Like people only want to hear that song, but they actually have other stuff in their catalog that's pretty darn good. Because you look at Kerry's career, and despite the injuries, he was still able to put together a hell of a career, and that's why he was enshrined in the Cubs Hall of Fame. Make no mistake to any fans listening, yes, the 20K game was awesome, but he also went on to win Rookie of the Year. I think he was a two-time All-Star as a starter and a closer, and second all-time in strikeouts for the Cubs. So, I mean, the guy compiled a heck of a career and was lights out in his prime. So I could see him being kind of like, yes, I did the 20K thing, but like I did other stuff too. That was pretty good.
Oh,
the Cubs acknowledge that by putting him in the Cubs Hall of Fame.
Yes.
So
exactly.
I don't think he likes talking about himself. I don't think he necessarily likes the attention of the 20 strikeout thing. But as far as the dad-son relationship thing, right? Also remember that I bet you if you ask Kerry, and I may have forgotten it, if you ask Kerry his favorite memories of baseball, his career with the Cubs, sure, 20K's in there because he's just going to be like, wow, it happened, right? I guarantee you that in the top 5, if not number 1, is going to be the way he went out and his kid came out of the dugout and he was able to celebrate at Wrigley Field his career with his own son. So that's why I think this all happened at the right time. Like you said, it's the fatherhood thing. It's him going through that. And did Seiya just hit home run?
Oh, Seiya.
Who's your daddy?
It was a bomb.
Right there.
That was a bomb. Wow.
And
right,
okay. Anyways, I
reacted to the game, guys.
See, it's a watch along. We told you, 21 homers. Anyways, I'm glad it happened. I think it's really cool. And do you want to talk a little Cubs baseball for a second?
Yeah,
I'm down. I can hang out. Cody said the 3rd inning. You guys kick me out whenever you're sick of my voice.
Well, we asked Danny the same question. I felt like I was going to ask anyone else that we had on here tonight, but like the same question. But obviously the season's been very disappointing, and you mentioned that when you first joined. But like from your perspective, what's been the biggest disappointment for you from this entire season?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I guess just that it feels like deja vu. Like going back to what we talked about with Michael Busch and kind of hoping for the breakout season to happen. We can't keep hoping for that. Like that's at some point you need to have like. Let me collect this a little bit better. I think that this offense right now is made up of like 5 really solid complementary pieces. but there is not a star. And I talked about it on the Dingers pod earlier this week. And the way that I would categorize a star is, I use Bryce Harper as an example just because it's a convenient one, but or Corey Seager. They both just happen to be free agents that the Cubs could have had, but they also both have their injury problems. But the thing that qualifies them as stars to me is that their floor is like the best player on our offense currently. The ceiling is a perennial MVP caliber talent. We don't have anybody like that on the roster right now. I think we thought maybe that Seiya could get there, and I think it's perfect timing that he hit that mammoth shot, and we get to talk about this because I think Seiya could be a really, like, he could be a pretty good number 2 or a great number 3 on an offense with some real bona fide studs. And again, we thought that maybe Bellinger could repeat his performance. I just think the disappointment, it doesn't lie totally in the individual players themselves, but I hate to, you see it everywhere on Cubs Twitter. It's Jed, man. And because you look at, like, I've thought a lot this season about, would it really have made a difference if we stuck with Ross versus Counsell? And I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't think so. And so the disappointment is that, and Cody, I know you've talked about it, like, he's sunk all this money into hopefully kind of players, right? And all of them kind of, not to belittle any of the individual players, they've all contributed at different points. Like, Tyone's been really solid. Happ obviously has been good as of late, but he also, both of them have down parts in the season. And a lot of the time, like, the signings that Jed makes kind of feel like like the booby prize, right? Where it's like, okay, well, I didn't get the top guy, but I got a guy.
Jake, they don't have a star, as you said. First of all, they don't have a superstar, which is a different level. They don't have a star. I think in my opinion, it's what we said a couple days ago. We looked at Happ's WAR and we're like, okay, he's having the best season of anybody on the team. Mm-hmm. He's the guy that's doing better than the back of his baseball card. And his season, WAR-wise, is basically what Addison Russell and Ben Zobrist did in 2016, which is obviously it's a great season, but you don't have Chris Bryant's 7 WAR, and you don't have Rizzo's 6 WAR, and you don't have Lester's 5 WAR, and you don't have, no, the guys that they have on the team, I guess you could build a winner with having all of those guys having their best season at the same time.
Yep.
But it's pretty unlikely. Those guys, in my opinion, are, and this is not a knock on any of them, Happ's a really good player. He's a Gold Glover. He's an all-star. Like, Seiya and Ian Happ and Dansby Swanson and Nick, look, you go through the whole group. They're 3s and 4s on really good teams.
Yep.
The Yankees have Judge and Soto. The Dodgers have Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, and Ohtani, who's 51-51. The guys we're talking about wouldn't even be the 4th best player on those teams. That's not against them. They're really good players. But teams that win have superstars. Mm-hmm. Superstars.
What I was going to say, based off what Jake said about would things have been different with Counsell or David Ross, I do think things have been different with Craig Counsell in terms of what every fan sat in our YouTube chat or on Cubs Twitter complained about David Ross. And that brings me back to Jed, though, because when this team has led baseball in 1-run losses and bottom 5 in baseball in blown saves, that's not on Craig Counsell, man. To me, that's on the front office because you ran it back with ALLCITY as your closer, and he had only been closing games for half the season, and he has injury history. To not really go and get a backup plan for him at the very least. And if you're telling me Hector Neris was a good backup plan when his best years with the Astros, he wasn't even the closer, to me, that's all on the front office. I don't like to sit here and shit on Jed as much as I have. If you go back to old audio from 2022 and 2023, I was a Jed defender. I believed in the direction. I liked that as much as it pained me that they traded Bryant, Baez, and Rizzo and non-tendered Schwarber and everything. The farm system needed a massive overhaul, and we've seen that bear fruit. The only good thing going on in this organization right now is the fact that internally they do seem healthier at the very least compared to 4 years ago. To me, that is the only good thing that I feel confident about Jed Hoyer is that he has done that. But go after what happened in September last year, for them to not really have a backup plan for closer and then to legitimately not really do anything to make the offense better when, in my opinion, September last year happened because their offense was so inconsistent, which led to their bullpen having to be so perfect when it wasn't very good to begin with. That's why when fans complain about the bullpen last September, it's like, well, did you see that the offense scored like 2 runs and you lost 4-2 and you led 2-1 in the 7th inning? How can you ask a bullpen to cover those games every single night? Sure, you're going to need them to perform and get you through games like that sometimes, but at the end of the day, you needed a better offense. And to me, the fact that they really didn't try to make the offense better, and your biggest move of the offseason, offensively speaking, was trading for a rookie that we didn't even know if he could play first base, and thank God he has turned into a really good defensive first baseman. I'll give Jed credit for doing that, but at the same time, the fact that he's given you a 20-homer season and has had a really nice rookie season, is among the top 5 in National League in rookies, will be top 5 in votes for Rookie of the Year, Michael Busch. The fact that has happened and you're still not going to make the playoffs is very telling to the lack of action that the front office had.
Too many what ifs.
Yes.
Too many what ifs. The biggest move we said that as the offseason was going on, we said, listen, bringing back Bellinger at this point has become a must when Ohtani goes to the Dodgers. You have to bring back. You have to have a left-handed bat. Mm. You have to at least have him as the threat of a home run. Now, he's not really a per se home run guy, but you had to have Bellinger back this season. But that was only bringing back what you already had, and they were hanging their hat on, well, we were 6th in the league in runs scored. If you want to make the stats tell you whatever you want to make them tell you, that's your own problem. But I didn't see the Cubs as a juggernaut last year, and I still don't see anybody in the lineup. You said talk about stars and superstars. Tell me one guy in the lineup that the Nationals or any other team facing the Cubs, they look at it and go, well, we're going to have to pitch around him. Has a Cubs player been pitched around all year?
There was.
I don't even know if it's happened that I can think of, where they were like, "Oh, we got to walk this guy intentionally. We can't face him tonight, no matter how hot they are."
Christian Bethancourt Bonds.
Yeah, right. But that's the problem. No, I agree. They got lots of problems. The offense is still a big one.
What was that game where they intentionally walked someone to get to
Madrigal?
Bethancourt?
Did they walk Madrigal one day?
Remember the 7 RBI game that Bethancourt had?
Yeah,
the Pirates.
You're right.
They intentionally walked someone to get to Bethancourt, and then he made them pay.
That's right. Who was it that got walked?
I want to say it was PCA or
probably
PCA.
right. Probably,
because it was like,
but it
8,
wasn't.
9.
It just it doesn't matter. Whoever they walked, it wasn't because it was either the situation, like having another force on, or whatever it might be. But it wasn't because, man, we can't throw one near the plate to this guy.
Yeah,
because they don't have that play.
I would argue,
and they haven't had that guy for a while.
I would argue, and this is largely based off potential, I would argue that the Nationals have a guy that can be what we're talking about. And whether that's Dylan Cruz or James Wood, I don't know who will develop to be that. I mean, CJ Abrams seems like a really nice player, needs to improve on defense, but the offense has definitely broke out a little bit for him this year. But James Wood and Dylan Cruz are going to be studs. and guys that I feel like that the Nationals build around. And we just had Danny Rocket in here in the first inning, and he was talking about, he even mentioned himself that he's afraid that the Nationals could be ahead of the Cubs next season, even just based off the star potential on their team. And now, you know, they definitely bottomed out more than the Cubs did, I think, based off draft position and stuff. And I think there's plenty of things you can criticize the Nationals for. I mean, they had Bryce Harper and Juan Soto on their team at one point. But the Juan Soto trade has also been very good for them so far. And again, a lot of it is potential. And I just think a lot of fans are questioning on, even with guys that are in Iowa right now, that are in baseball's top 100, people are questioning is one of those guys, can one of those guys be anything of like what I just said about James Wood or Dylan Cruz? And to me, Shaw or maybe Casey, maybe Mo Baller can if he can learn how to catch, maybe. I don't know, man. Like, it's tough. I want to have hope. I want to have belief in those guys because I do like them. It's been fun to watch them come through the minor league system. Maybe Cam Smith, but I don't think we even see Cam Smith.
I can't wait that
year.
long.
You know,
I've got a few parting thoughts. I've got to go get some dinner on the table. But I appreciate you guys having me. I wish I could stay longer. I've got a few things that I want to part with, and then I'll hang up and listen. The first thing, Cody, addressing your point with the young players on the Nationals, like that gives them more reason to go all in on Soto. And I know that's being talked about league wide. It's like it makes all the sense in the world for Soto to go back to a place that he knows. He's still young. He's going to be surrounded by potentially one of those superstars. If one of those guys, I think Cruz or Wood, like you said, and there's another guy in their minor league system that I'm forgetting that's solid too. But their big question is pitching. But they left themselves in a position where they can go out and potentially buy pitching. So watch out for the Nationals this offseason. Another quick disappointment that I had that I don't think anybody else is thinking about, I'm really disappointed that Caleb Killian got hurt. I really would have liked to see him eat some innings in the majors this year just to see what he has, because in his stints in AAA, he looked solid, and I think he's going to be less of a strikeout pitcher and more of a pitch-to-contact guy. It seems like he gets weak contact, but that, to my knowledge, isn't measured as extensively at AAA. I know that on Baseball Savant you can find ways to get into that, but it's a long process. So I'd love to hear you guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Killian, and then finally, I'd really like to hear what you guys think. Whether you think Porter Hodge has what it takes. You know, I would love it if a 23-year-old homegrown closer is the answer. I don't know if he is, but I really like, for the most part, he's had a couple, rough outings as of late, but I'm curious what you guys think, if he can be at least the solution next year. If you're comfortable, if there's no addition made, is he enough? So guys, thanks again for having me. I'm gonna listen along to get your answers there, and hopefully we get a Cubs win tonight. And hey, maybe a Porter Hodge save to see if he can slam the door against this Nationals team.
What is for dinner, real quick?
Yeah, what is for dinner? That's
we
the
have
leftovers.
Oh, okay.
Leftovers.
Leftovers can be good. All right, Jake.
You can turn leftovers.
My wife made a great enchilada casserole that I'm eating up. So.
All right.
Shout
out to
You should have left 10 minutes ago. How are you? Thanks, Jake.
Kim.
Hey, I can't. Hey, it's all about ball. Ball is life, right?
All right. Thanks, man. We'll talk to you later.
Man.
Thanks, guys. Go Cubbies.
Jake Bunowski. You can hear him on the Dingers podcast. Let's see.
Let's go through what he said.
Porter Hodge was the last one.
Hodge.
And we've said that. Wow. Do we think he could be? You know what concerns me about just anointing him the closer? It's another question mark.
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay with it, but if you're going to anoint Amaya your catcher and think Bush is automatically going to do it again at first base next year, and think that Paredes is going to be all-star Paredes at third, and that PCA is automatically going to be an all-star in center field in his first full season at the major league level. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to think that all the then we're going through the same exercise that you just went through him.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? A lot of what ifs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of what ifs.
A lot of what ifs.
Yeah.
She just sent us the social thing, by the way, of what Craig Counsell said.
Oh,
and
really?
I'm not. And it's a hunt. At least Craig Counsell acknowledges it, right?
Yeah.
Like we got to start putting together
Gotta get
90-win
better.
seasons. That's the standard.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the playoff standard.
I think he's. Do I think he was the answer this season? No, he's got to take some of the blame.
Yeah.
Because of this, they're basically going to finish with what they did with David Ross.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That said, I don't put most of the blame at his feet. I think he went into the season wanting more done in the offseason, and I think he burns a little hot. I think he's got a little red ass in him. You know what I'm saying? And I think he will be in the face of some people this offseason, whether it's Jed Hoyer, Tom Ricketts, whoever it might be. I think he will be loud and vocal about we don't have enough.
Yeah. He's working with what he's got.
Yeah. Well, also, let's just throw it out there. Like, he has to feel like embarrassed about the fact that he took all this money to come to the Cubs and the Brewers were just fine without him. And he's probably going home to Wisconsin and being laughed at by plenty of people.
I don't know.
I know that money is money, but at the same time, though, like, every player, manager, whatever, has a legacy. And he, based off this quote, and then just like being human in general, people care about their legacy in the game, all right? And he has a very respected one. And so
I bet you
what I am interested about Craig this offseason is how much input he has in building this team, because he had a large input in building the teams in Milwaukee, from my understanding. So
DJ Rick says Hodges improving. You still need a closer. Get Mason Miller and Rooker from Oakland. Well, that sounds like a nice offseason.
Rooker would be nice. I just don't know how they fit him in with all these outfielders that we have.
My thought on Counsell could be embarrassed. I bet you it's a little more just peeved.
Yeah.
It's gonna nag at him all offseason. His guys are winning without him. He's got 40 million reasons not to be embarrassed.
That's fair,
right? But like you said, he's also super competitive.
Yeah.
I think
those guys have plenty of money.
Anyone would be competitive about, and if they got to this level, I think, and with the success that he's had as a manager, it's not like he's won a World Series. It's not like he has deep playoff runs with the Brewers. You know what I mean? Like, there has to be more in the tank of the fire and want and motivation. And again, he had a lot to do with how the Brewers built their teams, and I just hope that he's inserting his input. So
you realize that Shohei Ohtani has 21 more stolen bases than Nico Horner this year?
He just stole his 30th.
I wouldn't have thought that. That's crazy.
I'm
Emma,
not
what's hot in the social media world today?
Anyways.
What's hot? Is TikTok still the?
Unfortunately, Demir has left the trend.
Yeah, Demir has left the chat. All right.
I just want to point that out.
Demir
That's
has
been
left the chat.
That's been the best one of 2024.
A bunch of people who are like
Slay's
admins.
still hot, obviously.
Slay is always hot for me. Like, apparently Gen Alpha, if you say Slay, it's cringy, and I can't believe I'm at the age where now like I say things that are cringy to other people. It's kind of
cringy's kind of cringy.
Yeah.
The term cringy is
no,
just kind of cringy.
but people would say, what's that word
sorry.
they would say?
Cringy's kind of
cringy,
cringe to me.
But like when you say, I don't know. It was
I was going to say, Luke, you want to know what's trending that I just found out today? Has anyone been on the Nutter Butter page on TikTok? You know the cookie Nutter Butter?
I'm scared, Sarah. On their TikTok?
So apparently at the Nutter Butter TikTok, they have allowed their Gen Z to take over their marketing, like to just see how it looks. And it's trending now on TikTok because the Nutter Butter page on TikTok is so unhinged. And if anyone wants to go look, it's actually insane what they have created as their marketing
Okay, so
tool.
I haven't seen that. What I was going to say is that I watch other teams, like their social people, and they'll have the players sign a picture of them from when they were a child. I was going to try to do that for all of you guys, but I couldn't really find everyone's Facebook.
Guess who it is?
No, just like be like, hey, can you sign this photo? And it's like a fifth grade, like their fifth grade yearbook photo, and they look like a little
Right.
5th grade.
I
Like,
saw they did
that's
that for
funny.
I think they did that for the Eagles. Or no,
yeah,
they
did
that
for the Eagles. They did it for
They're like
not
social
the
team.
Sky, but
So, some of our employees.
Oh my God,
picture would look the
Cassie
same.
knows. Look, she knows. She's been on every
Mine
time
would be
I
black
talk.
and white.
I talk a
Slay.
trend. She knows.
it's like very cutesy, very mindful. I'm trying to think that dance that I had Carm and Braggs do.
What was the name of that dance?
The dip.
The dip. Yeah. I don't know.
Snort-
I don't know
snorting.
about that whole thing.
Cassie
you
knows
snort?
the Nutter Butter one. That's why she's saying.
Where
don't
is
go
this
on it.
pizza at?
Where is this?
Yeah, I'm
pizza
still waiting
at?
for this pizza, Jake.
Jake,
No wonder Bunowski left the chat, man. He
Yeah.
was starved out of his mind.
Oh, seriously.
DJ Ricks with a super chat during this
$1.99.
watch along.
Cubs have
Cubs
the
have
prospects to get Oakland's players.
players.
I mean, that's true. Listen, they have the prospects to get Mason Miller, but man,
Some of those guys be begging to get out of Sacramento
yeah,
in the summer.
Rooker would be nice. I just wish he was a little bit younger.
Yeah.
I am saying my goodbye for now. Joey's gonna come on.
Okay.
Joey's
Corey's
coming
about
on?
to join us. He's been sitting here
slay.
waiting.
Oh,
Hi,
Corey's
Corey.
ready
Bye,
now?
Corey's
Corey.
here.
Also,
He's-
hi to my mom and dad. They're watching.
Shout out
to
Shout out.
Emma's
Slay.
oh my God!
parents.
Shout out
Slay.
to Emma's parents.
They slay real hard.
Emma's parents. Thank you for blessing us with her presence.
Thanks, Emma's
Appreciate
parents.
that. I appreciate that. All right. Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao. So some other plays that we haven't mentioned as this happens.
There's the
Wisdom
Sith
had
Lord.
an
There's
error
the Sith
first.
Lord we were waiting for.
Well, if Emma's getting up, I'm just replacing the gray.
Oh, right. We
hoodie
always have to have at least
on
one
set.
person wearing the hoodie up.
We're getting a new person
Joey's
to
jumping
see.
in.
Joey, who does the All Big Ten podcast. Isn't that what it's called? The All Big Ten
podcast.
And we're joined by one Corey Friedman.
Oh, now he's gone to the Abhishek's hat. Very nice. Bunowski wants to know what kind of pizza. We don't know. It's a mystery pizza.
Yeah,
We
I
don't-
wish we knew.
It's the only reason Joey stuck around. He
It is
heard
the
there was free
only
pizza.
reason-
Let's be honest.
Promised.
He's like, I already talked Big Ten. I'm not sticking around. Then we said free pizza, and he's like, I'm in.
I was also I didn't eat dinner.
Center. You get center
I was
cuts.
told there was going to be food tonight. I didn't eat dinner, so I am once again patiently waiting.
Look at Gary Ross trying to be part of our family again after he's left
Gary
us.
Ross.
He's just left us for
Gary
football.
Ross.
Like the Bears started playing
he's
football,
here.
and Gary dumped us faster than one of J-Lo's exes dumped her.
Well, now he's on Indiana Hoosiers. That's all.
J-Lo just got.
he's
Who
an
Gary
alum.
Ross and I are now new BFFs.
He's an alum.
There he is
He's an
in the chat.
alum.
Who dumped who? Ben dumped. He couldn't deal with J-Lo. Now see, J-Lo. This is just a guess. J-Lo must be a little crazy, right?
She's insane.
She's crazy, and who am I thinking of? Halle Berry. Who's
So here,
Halle Berry? They've both had like bad relationship after relationship. They've got crazy. There's got to be crazy
the thing
there.
with J-Lo is that there's a part of her
Or they attract crazy.
where Ben Affleck's like, "Hey, I'm going to watch the Sox game tonight," and she goes, "Well, what am I going to wear?" And then you know what I mean? Like there's a whole nother vibe.
Ben Affleck's crazy as well.
Well, yeah.
Obviously, he's got a back tattoo. What is it?
I mean,
Ben
he did
Affleck
Forces
has
of
a back
Nature the movie,
tattoo?
so he is a little crazy. I mean, that was
Yeah.
a mistake from the jump.
Oh, I'm sorry, Corey. I forgot. We had brought John. Hold on, we're about to look at this.
Luke Stuckmeyer.
Do you know about?
having a night.
Corey's into this social media stuff. Do you know about the back tattoo that Ben Affleck has?
I do.
Slay?
He's oh my goodness.
Is that a
Slay
parrot?
meter?
At first I thought it was a Charizard on his back. That is not a Charizard.
What is it?
Just look at it.
While that's being passed around, can I tell a quick, really short Kerry Wood story just really fast? You guys were talking about him earlier. So back in the day in like 2004, 2005, I had a bunch of really good friends. They worked for Sweet Mandy Bees, which is a cake bakery place in Chicago.
Made my wedding cake.
It's a great place. My buddy gets a phone call one day from this low voice, and he starts placing an order. And he tries to explain to him that he's trying to order this cake in secret and surprise his wife. And they can I get a name for the order? And he goes, Wood Carey. And everyone pauses and goes, oh my God, this is Kerry Wood. So then he goes to the very end. He goes, all right, well, Mr. Wood, we're going to do this cake for you. And is there anything specific that you would like on the cake? And Kerry Wood takes this really long pause And then he just goes,
icing, frosting.
some shades of purple would be nice. It's like, oh, Carrie, you gentleman,
Wow.
you tastemaker.
Now we know. Now we know Sarah Wood's favorite color is purple.
What a sweetheart.
Yeah.
What a good dude.
Yeah.
Never forget that story.
I think we had another super chat in here from DJ Ricks, $4.99. You guys are great. Keep doing your thing. Stuck and Cody
and Corey and Brendan as well,
and Joey
and
Emma and everyone else,
and even
joined.
Ryan.
And even Ryan. Oh, hell
10
yeah,
minutes.
brother. 10 minutes
thank
till
you, 10.
pizza.
Corey, where have you been? I feel like I haven't. The last time I saw you, you didn't even have a beard.
Luke, speaking of, like social media, there was a tweet that was going around maybe like a month ago that was basically like I accidentally became too important at work and it's ruining my life. And that's the answer. That's my real life. So
That's a good thing to be.
It's a good thing. But yeah, it's a lot harder to hop on those, 120 shows and stuff like that. But happy to I miss you, Luke. I saw Cody yesterday, so I don't miss Cody, but I miss you.
I miss your scent. I miss your musk. I miss your face.
Let's get an apartment together after the season.
It also, I think there would be much more of a impetus to, be rushing to the studio if watching this team play baseball didn't make me want to pull my hair out. So
yep.
That's the nice version. I feel like you would say a much more explicit version if you weren't live on YouTube right now with us.
That's correct.
3-3 in the fifth.
Yeah.
What are they showing here?
Who's this girl getting a beer?
I don't understand what's going on. Anyways, it's 3-3 in the fifth.
3-3. We have a
We're
lot
gonna
of
have a tough time
comments.
doing-
Everybody wins a beer.
Go ahead, Corey.
Yeah, go.
I was going to say, I do want to ask, I know you mentioned it a second ago, Luke, because I saw the graphic that we just put out on social. Are we going to talk about how that quote from Craig Counsell is almost pulled straight from the mouth of Dr. Brendan Miller about the 90-win teams? He says that like every episode.
He does.
He probably listens to the pod and doesn't want to say anything about it.
Coincidence? I don't know.
Probably not.
We can start pushing the
But that does
narrative.
remind me, I do need to put the ad reads into the show, and I hadn't even thought about the post-game show, and it could come quickly. You never know. God willing, it could come quickly.
The 5 things you want before the end of the season was fast games.
Fast games was number one.
I will say about this comment, though, like related to Counsell, I mean, it feels like the most like true and like it's not just like the same thing he's been saying all season, Corey. Like, you get what I mean by that? Like, it's like he's acknowledging that, like, yes, we need to be better and play better, and we got to get to this type of projection. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm overplaying it a little bit, but
no, I mean, I think he's been very careful. He's clearly very mindful with his words when he does his post-game pressers and stuff like that. And I know some people, it's kind of riled some people up that they're a little boring, maybe a little dry. But I think he's very careful about what he says. And I think now that we're toward the end of the season, he's kind of shifting to like, all right, what happened here? We're not making the playoffs. Like, what's the kind of like post-mortem on this season? And I made that joke about Brendan, but it's like the reason that comes up is because it's true. It's not an idea that Brendan invented. It's just something he hammers on every episode. But the reason Counsell's saying that is the same thing we've all been talking about. Like, you land at that type of projection because there is a very logical belief that the team will be good. And even if a bunch of stuff goes wrong, you'd be around where the Cubs are now. And if everything goes great, you're a mid to high 90s win team. And there's almost a certainty that you make the playoffs if you're able to get there. So it's a lot of what we've been saying basically for, going back to like last offseason, in terms of like reliability and projectability and really trusting that the group you have is, I think, Luke, you were saying this a little bit before I jumped on, like, we've entered the season the last 2 years with way too many like what ifs and needing a certain guy to hit that absolute 99th percentile outcome of their potential performance. And in this league, like, that's not good enough. You were talking about the Dodgers, Luke, like, they're not doing that. Their success and failure does not hinge on their youngest, most inexperienced player learning a new position and becoming an all-star, right? Or a 23-year-old figuring out how to close games. And they have their own problems. Don't get me wrong. I've said this before, but Cody, you might be starting for the Dodgers in the playoffs at this rate. So it's not, no system is perfect. Nothing is without risk, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm glad to hear Counsell say that, because it's true. And it's how the organization needs to be operating as we go into this offseason.
Would you, like when Jake was in here, he said something along the lines of like, I wasn't sure if anything different would have happened if David Ross was here rather than Craig Counsell. Where do you sit on in that conversation?
Cody, you know where I sit in that.
I just want you to say it out loud for the people.
This team would be worse with David Ross. I think a few things can be true. I think you can look at last year and perhaps ask the question of if people were too hard on David Ross. I think there was a lot of games where he made clear mistakes. And the way that he managed the lineup, the way that he managed the bullpen, like, I don't really think it's even hindsight, but particularly with the benefit of hindsight, there were mistakes that were made there. Their record indicated they should have been better, or their, under the hood stats indicated that they should have been better, and they weren't. I just don't think so. I think if you watch these games in back-to-back years and come away with the conclusion that David Ross is as good or better a manager than Craig Counsell, I don't know. We just don't watch the game from the same lens. I don't think. So I think the team would be worse, but I think it's also fine to look back and say, last year, maybe we needed to put more of the blame on Jed and the individual players, at times for not doing their jobs. But this is a year where I don't look at a whole host of things and say, oh, well, Counsell messed this up for them, and that's why they're not going to make the playoffs. I do look at 2023 that way. And so that's my opinion. I know it's a divisive issue for some reason, but Craig Counsell does laps around David Ross. That's just how I'm always going to see it.
It's divisive because they're going to end up at the same place, right?
Sure.
It doesn't matter what the path is with the different guy, but they're still ending up in the same place. And I will point out that if we want to give Brendan Miller credit for saying 91 teams, I will say that I did predict 90 wins this season because I thought they were going to be winners. Yeah. I thought they were going to win the division.
Well, we all thought they were going to be winners.
So I have a question. Joey and Corey, I got to. This is what we were talking about on the couch yesterday.
If you got zero outs, by the way, the base is jacked. Just to talk about the game for 3 seconds. Sorry, go ahead.
It's like we're Harry Carey, some grand slam. Anyways, as I was talking,
stats, Cody, let's go, baby.
All right. I was saying, take a mystery player, if you want to say Vlad Guerrero, if you want to say whoever you have to trade to get this superstar or star player that you're seeking. We all know they're seeking one. They need one. Let's say it takes one of these two or both. What if the key piece in that trade is Nico Horner? What if the key piece in that trade is Owen Casey? What if it's both of them? What scenarios would you prefer it be? Right? Like some people are prospect thumpers and they'd be like, no way in hell am I giving up Owen Casey in any deal. I don't care who's coming back. I'm not. Cade Horton, throw the same name in there. Other people would say, well, why would you give up Nico Horner? He's the proven commodity. We can see he can play at the major league level. Now, the other team will have a factor in what that choice would be. But what if you have to give up something that you like, that's good, and something you don't know that could be great? Which one would you rather give up in that group?
I'll jump in first, Corey, because I'll try and be brief because I want to hear your answer. I mean, I think the problem with this lineup right now is there is a redundancy of good to pretty good. Yep. And I would put Isaac Paredes, Nico Horner, and Michael Busch into that category. In my opinion, if you want to take that next step and if you want to get to what you guys have talked about, getting a superstar or a star tier level player, I think one of those guys probably should not be on your roster next year. And I think if you want to also hedge your bets for the prospect thumpers out there, you can save some of those prospect coffers by offering up one of those guys as a centerpiece. So it's kind of like a midway of like, we're not just pillaging the prospect pool. It's not the Cade Hortons, or maybe you can even, if you could convince someone with a Michael Busch and not a KC and go a little bit underneath, that could be a way to make a package to bring a person in. But in my opinion, first base and third base, we've had Brizzo. We know what that is. You can't have Michael Busch, 20 home run hitter, Isaac Paredes, 20 home run hitter in the same lineup, in my opinion, because I like the outfield the way it is.
When the outfield's harder to switch up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
no trades, yeah.
I think I'm like generally of the same mindset. You know, for each player, it depends on what the deal is. I think you guys know I'm not a big like hypothetical, let me make up a trade kind of guy.
We're forced.
I like a lot of these prospects, but it's hard for me to say like, oh, I would give him up for this guy or not this guy. But I think my general philosophy is kind of something that I was getting into on the Sunday edition this past week, which was we have listened to Jed for, 3 or 4 years now, talk about each move that he makes, wanting to find that balance between success and not mortgaging the future. And as we head into another year of his tenure, when, we're going to be coming off another season where you haven't made the playoffs, my feeling on all of it, my broad answer is they have got to win in 2025. That's the answer. So if that means parting with significant prospects to do it, then that's what you have to do. Because if the answer is, well, we feel we don't have enough power, but we don't want to, we can't trade this guy. We can't trade this guy. We can't trade this guy. We're doing the same thing. We're just holding on for that point where all these guys come up and hopefully it all syncs together just like it did in 2015 and 2016. And, you're chasing you're chasing a light that was there at once for you, but it's very difficult to track down. And so I am for whatever they need to do to get better. We've looked at this roster before, certainly several of the times that I've been in the studio with you guys, and there's not a lot of places, as you were just saying, to make these adjustments. You have contracts locked in to a good portion of your position players, sometimes longer term ones, some bigger money ones. It's not as though you have several openings and this big plethora of big name free agents that you're for sure going to be able to just go add. You're going to have to probably move some guys around, or you're going to have kind of no choice but to bring back a very similar group. So I think I'm in agreement generally. Like on the specifics, I don't know. I'd have to like look at the trade, right, to be sure if I felt comfortable about it. But I guess my overarching thing, I love Owen Casey. I think he's a great prospect. I think he's going to be a very good hitter in the major leagues. But they need to win starting next year. They have got to get better. And if the only way to do that is to part with prospects, then they're going to have to part with prospects. Because I'm not doing this like extended timeline thing anymore. Like you have to get results eventually. It's just the nature of the business.
You're 100% right. Like there is nobody, in my eyes, there's nobody in the organization that should be off limits if it means making the right deal, right? Like 100%. To what Joey's saying, I'm thrilled what they got in the Michael Busch deal. He's been outstanding at first. He's gotten so much better, as Cody points out, defensively. But if a team looks at that and says, "Man, that's the guy. That's the young player I want. I'll give you our star first baseman, but I need that back, and he's younger." And you're like, "Well, why would you give up the younger guy?" Yada yada. You'd also be trading very high. You'd be trading higher value. Like he's increased his value. I'm not advocating making him the guy that you try and trade. Same thing as I'm not pointing out that Nico could go. They have to make a bold move because what Corey said is true. Just getting here and doing this again next year is not acceptable. And the only way you're not going to be here next year is sign Soto or do something bold. And I don't think they're going to sign Soto. I want them to. I think that, right, 100%.
And that's the funny thing, though, Corey. You're
but
talking.
That's the easy thing. You can save your prospects and spend them. Like
I know, and we're talking
it's their
about
easy fix
when
for them.
he talks about. And Corey, you're so right, man. When Jed Hoyer talks about mortgaging the future, my question
What
back
future?
to the group is right. That is just dollars on a piece of paper And my question for you guys is Jed Hoyer's blind spot bankability, right? Like, isn't that what we keep getting around to? It's like the trauma of is Dansby drives in a run. Is it Dansby Swanson or is it Jason Hayward? The fear to go out and get bankable things instead of actually saying, well, if we get this kind of success and if we get this proportional margin above it, we'll be great and we'll be in good shape. I mean, is that something that's been Jed's problem?
I don't think, for me personally, I don't think the fear of Jason Hayward's contract is holding them back. And Dansby Swanson, as much as his bat can be annoying at times, he has literally been everything he's been his entire career.
Oh, I agree.
All right.
I agree.
And even
and
to
neither
this,
one's a big contract
and
anymore.
even to this point, he's been more valuable than any of the other three shortstops that signed. Now, you want to revisit the shortstop market and everything? To me, it's like you go back and you should have signed Corey Seager instead.
Right, and it could have been Xander Bogaerts.
Sure.
I'm with you.
Xander Bogaerts has been, he's been. And the Padres have already moved him to second base and put Ha-Seong Kim at short anyway, right? You needed a shortstop. You had Nico Horner. So it's a very, you can go back and forth with it. It's not as if like it's, I'm trying to think of one of the worst contracts in baseball.
Oh, right.
But I'm blanking on it. But like, it's not as if it's bad. I don't think that any of those things have anything to do with why they won't sign Juan Soto. I think the reason that they ain't going to sign Juan Soto has more to do with the guy at the very, 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 very top. That's what I think it is. Mm-hmm. As someone who has somewhat defended ownership, because I do think there are significantly worse owners across not just baseball, but sports, and one being across town on the south side of the city. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like I should sit here and yell about the Ricketts family as much as a lot of other people do. But at the same time, this organization has never given out a $200 million contract. And at this point, giving out a $186 million contract to Dansby Swanson is like giving out the Ben Zobrist contract back in 2015 or 2016, because the market has only risen. At this point, giving out a $250 million contract is not enough for like a quote-unquote star. I think you can argue against that in some ways. But like if you look at the Jason Hayward contract, that contract, if they would given that contract to him in 2016 and the market is where it's at now, he would have made over $200 million contract. Yeah. So to me, it's all about, when it comes to signing a guy like Juan Soto, or if we're going to talk pitchers, Corbin Burns or Max Fried, it's like, it's hard for me to have any real faith or belief that they're going to be serious about the top of the free agent market until they actually do it. And Jason Hayward at the time was the number one like positional player on the market in 2016 or going into 2016.
We were pumped when we signed him.
And that's the only time that I feel like they've really done, like acted at the top of the free agent market. Maybe Yu Darvish, even though that deal turned out to be really, really good, that in terms of the money, but that was only like $126 million, so like even probably not. But like, I'm saying a lot of words and rambling on. To me, it's all about, if you're going to be at the top of the free agent market, the guy at the very top has to give that okay. And I do feel like in some ways though too, because what Jed has said about being like risk averse about like these long-term deals, like he basically refuses to give out these 10-year contracts. Like, I feel like that has something to do with it too. It could be a mix of both, So as someone, as we sit here on this set as outsiders that talk about what's going on about the Chicago Cubs, and I can say this about anyone covering any other team in the city, for what we know, these are the conclusions that I've come up with, man.
Yeah.
And it's hard to tell. Like, I wish I could be confident in ownership, but I'm really just not in terms of like where I was maybe 7 years ago.
That's so tough, because as Cubs fans, we're in I think Jed will do this thing. And sometimes I feel like Jed's moves are based on, I think I will get this projection out of this player. Yeah. And I wish, as the Chicago Cubs, Corey, I wish that they would act with a little bit more certainty and some more known commodities. When you check the Dodgers, I'm not asking them to be the Dodgers, but they do go out and they get known commodities for their baseball team. And I feel like we play a little bit more hope and think. That's as a fan. That's what I think.
Why aren't we
100%,
asking them to be
yeah.
the Dodgers?
Why do we what?
Why don't
Because
we ask them
baby
to be the
steps,
Dodgers?
Luke. I don't
Like,
know. You know.
You know what? I agree with you.
You know what I mean?
I agree
But
with
I
you,
hear
but
on
like
that.
that should be the standard. You're the Cubs.
Yeah.
It all changed in 2016. You won it.
Yeah. Hell, they sent out a tweet on one of the anniversaries.
It's different here. Is you have to see it.
They sent out a tweet on the anniversary of the World Series with sometime within the last 4 years saying like, basically saying that they set the standard or whatever. And that was like that
Do
was,
we get all of it?
And then they just haven't played to what they've even said. Like that,
Yeah.
I think that's what makes me so upset about this season is that I have been patient. I think as a fan, and I'm not here to say that I'm the best fan. I'm not here to say that I know everything about the team.
Credit to you.
Many people online love to tell me when I'm wrong, okay? At the same time, though, I feel like I've been fair in my patience in the direction that the team chose after basically you could set the line at the moment they traded you, Darvish. I feel like I've been as patient as I possibly can be for the organization because they finally had chose a direction, because I think you can argue after 2018 they needed to make a shakeup of the roster after Theo said, oh, the offense was broken or whatever. And then instead of signing Bryce Harper, they signed Daniel Descalso, whatever, not trying to put any PTSD in your head or trigger it, Corey. But, you know, they didn't really like the 2019 season was a very disappointing one. And we all basically knew that something like that would happen because they didn't make the team better. If anything, they made the team worse. And then the pandemic year, happened. And after it, they were like, we're going to trade Darvish. And they non-tendered Schwarber, and all these things played out. And along the way, it led to them choosing a direction finally, and that was to go young, try and fix this farm system, develop some guys, and try to build it back up again. And it's very fair, in my opinion, to say that it has taken too long at this point.
100%.
Especially when Jed said at the trade deadline of 2021 that this isn't going to be a rebuild at all. Basically.
Retool? Was that the word?
He basically said it wouldn't be like a rebuild like the one that Theo put us all through that led to the World Series. So
Well, and I think too, like, you know, especially you're talking about patience, Cody, like, you know, it's one of those times where it's always worth, you know, pointing out like they've done a lot really well. You know, like the system is in a better place. They have identified good players. There are really good players on this team. The issue is it's that same thing. It's just like there is a clear like next gear that some of these teams get to that they're just not at. You know, and we use the Braves as a good example. Like the injuries are possibly going to take them out of it, but like they were fighting for a playoff spot with basically every good player they have outside of Matt Olson getting hurt. And like that's
a guy
the
they
position
traded
you
for,
need.
by the way.
yeah.
You know?
Right, who was available to you as well. Yeah.
Yep.
But like that's the position you need to be in. You need to be in a position that if, you know, next year Ian Happ or Seiya Suzuki or someone else, they all miss time, you're still good to go because you built a roster that prepares for those things and like looks around at the climate of the league you're playing in and says, this is a roster that's either in the middle of this pack or this is a roster we believe is clearly above this. And I know the discussion is so much going to be about Juan Soto, but it's not all about Juan Soto. It's never a like, you know, binary system where it's like they're only going to be successful if they bring in Juan Soto. He's just the biggest name, and he's of course the guy that they should be going after because he solves all of their problems and then some. But it's just about, you know, this roster is in a good place, but it's got to level up, and you have to figure out the ways to do that. And that's exactly what Craig Counsell's alluding to. Like, I think people get lost sometimes because they think of those projection systems and they think of it as like nerd shit or you know, just like computers that are wrong and the games played on the field, not on a spreadsheet, that type of thing. But it's just more of what it reflects. And when you build a roster that all these systems look at and go, yeah, 82, 83 wins, like it doesn't mean that they're right, but there's a reason that they put you there. And there's a reason that they put the Dodgers and Braves and Orioles or Yankees 7 or 8 games above you. Like there's a logic to that, and there's a reason that you want to be sitting in that position. So I don't know, man. I think you're right. I think it's a question of patience, and just like it's too long. Like whether the process has been good and it's on a nice trajectory, like that's all fair and good. But it's like at some point you have to get results. We can't just keep waiting and saying, no, like it's getting a little better. They're going to win one extra game a year or something like that. Like at some point you gotta turn the gas on. And as it relates to prospects too, it's the easiest thing in the world to reference the period from 2015 and 2016 when the Cubs do win the World Series, right? But the reason I always bring that up outside of like talking about them winning the World Series is they get so lucky with that timing. As we sit here, however many years removed, we don't look back on that because there's no reason to, but like they get so lucky with how that times out in terms of the performance you're getting from those players. Jake Arrieta was a top 10, at times top 1 pitcher in the league for what, 4 years? Okay, John Lester comes over. He's in his 30s. He signs that veteran deal. He is still competing for Cy Youngs after he signs that contract. Ben Zobrist winning World Series MVP. Guys like Javi come up and they find that initial success and rush right at the exact perfect time that you needed it, right? You think of someone like Addison Russell. He was productive for you for like 2 years when you needed it the most, and then was not even a Major League Baseball player after that point, and an extremely questionable human as well. So it all happens in this exact perfect window for you to win the World Series, where a 30-whatever-year-old Ben Zobrist is your World Series MVP, your 24-year-old rookie third baseman is the league MVP after winning Rookie of the Year before, and guys like John Lackey give you their last like bit of juice from their career. I go through all of that to illustrate that when we're talking about Matt Shaw, Owen Casey, Cade Horton, PCA, what he's doing, the odds that it all works out that way and they all perform and adjust at the major league level and succeed at the major league level at the exact same time, if that is what we are all banking on here, then I don't know, man. We are in for a long ride because it can happen. We saw it happen. It happens for other, but it is extremely rare that you look at a core of prospects and just wait for them to come together and win you a championship together. And it just happens, and you just check it off, and everybody high fives in the front office. You go, we did it, like nailed it. Great. Now we move on to the next group. It's very rare.
So basically, we are screwed, as Michael
It
Scott
reminds me. It does remind me of though. It does remind me of. Remember, Hee-Sop Choi. We pivoted off of that. We moved to Derek Lee, right? I mean, not all of these guys are going to make it, and a lot of these guys can turn into bargaining chips that can turn into actual known commodities at the major league level. Again, when we talk about luck and confluence of events, you got to be right on some of these guys because you'll be wrong on some of them, but not everyone's.
But I think, like on that note, you look at to the period I'm talking about. That person was Starlin Castro. Starlin Castro was the guy on this team. He, maybe he was the face, I guess, before Rizzo came, but that was a dark period, so I don't know if if there was a face. But like he was the young guy. He was the guy that they developed and stuff like that. And then after 2015, they were like, you know what? We need this spot. We're gonna go get Ben Zobrist. And it's been fun, Starlin, but we're going to go win the World Series without you. And so sometimes you do have to make those decisions. And like, not to compare the players directly, but there's guys on this team where, like you guys were talking about Michael Busch and the success that he's had, but maybe you look at this and go, you know what? We've got a couple positions. This is who's available for an upgrade. And we're going to make that upgrade rather than just trudging on with the same thing.
Was that a grand slam?
Drew Smiley.
That was a 3-run
Oh my
homer.
God. I'm so happy to be with you guys, honestly.
I'm a little
Drew
delayed.
Smiley giving up a 3-run bomb in the sixth.
We're delayed too, or at least the TV's delayed, and Sarah's changing the score. And I'm like, what's going on? What just happened?
Her faith is really lower than ours right now as we're talking about the future.
So The post-game pod YouTube chat will definitely have a bunch of Smiley slander. He's definitely had some tough outings here late in the season, but
I'm
whatever.
starting to believe that one of the worst things that happened in the last year for the Chicago Cubs and for Cubs fans, one of the worst things, maybe the worst thing that happened for the Cubs was not like Morel didn't turn out to be the guy at third that you hoped he was going to blossom into right away. Yeah. Or Horton didn't get to pitch this season. The worst thing that happened to the Cubs in the last year is the Diamondbacks sneaking in and getting all the way to the World Series. Because I think a lot of organizations, including the Cubs, saw that and said, oh, wait a minute, we don't necessarily have to have three $200 million guys. Look how they did it. And they got in, and they barely got in, and they went all the way to the World Series.
But they went and they got Eugenio Suarez in the offseason, right? They still spent money and got to the next level. And guess where they are?
Yes.
In the wild card thing.
And the other thing is, like,
people
look at the Rangers, and they're like, what did all that money get them? They lost 100 games with all those guys. And the next year they won the World Series. And you know what? They're not going to make the postseason again, but there's a World Series in the middle of it. You have to have those opportunities. Are you going to look bad a couple times? Probably. You're going to sign some contracts that look bad, but that doesn't mean you stop signing them.
Mm-hmm. Well, right. And sometimes Seiya Suzuki pulls his oblique in spring training, and sometimes Justin Steele blows out his hamstring on the first game of the season, right? Like, this stuff happens during a major league season, but that's such a great point because that made me so mad when Ricketts was fawning over the try-hard Diamondbacks, and why can't we be the try-hard Cubbies?
The Diamondbacks also, though, had they had developed their own star player in Corbin Carroll, though, and Ketel Marte started for and Ketel Marte started for the All-Star team in the National League this year. They had just lost 100 games before last year. They had just lost 100 games 2 years before that, but they had some star players on that team develop that helped them get to where they were. And that's why that they are where they are this year with some added help, adding Jock Peterson, and they signed some starting pitchers. I know Jordan Montgomery's been a bust for them, but other than that, Rodriguez has been good for them.
Marte bounces back.
The Mets are a better argument for, look, spending money doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? The Rangers spent money, but they eventually won. The Astros have spent money, they have won.
Yeah.
The Diamondbacks, sure, they got there with a developing team, but and you can argue, well, the Dodgers haven't really won anything with all that money they spend other than an asterisk season. That's true. But they are in the mix and a favorite to be there every single time. You have to be in the conversation. If you're just going to wait, if you're going to wait to be the outlier every 20 years, good luck.
Go ahead, Corey.
The Dodgers haven't won a real championship since the 80s, but the process is good. It's not they need to identify players that don't choke as much. That's the problem. You got to go John Lester, not Clayton Kershaw. That's the difference.
Yeah. Someone in the chat said something related to my comment about Smiley slander. All I was saying is that if you just you go on Drew Smiley's game log this year, and you would probably be surprised at how decent he's actually been. But I did say of late he has not been very good. So listen, I wish they would have been able to move him because he is a big part of why they went over the luxury tax this year too. So I don't necessarily disagree. But I'm also just saying that he has not been worthless this year. And that's what a lot of people will say.
He was their best lefty for a while, which was also true last year at the end of the year. So
once he got put into the bullpen, yes. The point is that it's not worth yelling about, especially at this point. That's just my opinion. It is what it is.
He's a good man. He won't be a Cub next year. It's okay.
What?
Are there leverage analytics though?
You want me to complain about Drew Smiley? Okay. It annoys me that we're paying him $9 million this year. And we're paying him $9 million because Jed signed him to be a starter.
Yep.
And he was good for 2.5 months last year as a starter. And then sucked for 2 months as a starter. And then they finally put him into the bullpen. And he was actually decent for them in the bullpen in September of last year. And then, like I said, this year he's been fine. He had an ERA under 3 for most of the season.
It just sucks that you're paying him $9 million to be a middle reliever, and he's not someone who throws upper 90s fastball.
Right, and as a Cubs fan too, it's just there's been some moments that have been really tough for Smiley.
Sure, yeah,
and look,
and it's all about like the first impression. And
the last thing too was Seiya dropping the fly ball in right field. That doesn't encapsulate his career, but I can't get that out of my mind as a Cubs fan, and that happens sometimes with Drew Smiley this season a little bit.
Yeah. So,
Corey, as a season ticket holder, give me a percentage on how confident you are that this team will do whatever it takes. Or do what it takes to get them into the postseason next year, right? Like whether that's march out the same team and get lucky, whether that's signing some significant players, that trading prospects to get the right players. What's your percentage of hope or belief that this team will be a real postseason player next year?
Until they show otherwise, I think this is kind of the cycle that we're in. And so I would say I'm not confident in them doing is the word you used, whatever it takes. They will not do whatever it takes. I know that. Like, they're not going to, like, I don't think they're going to go get
what it takes.
I think that they, like I said, they have a good team. There is a pretty solid major league group that they have. And I think we'll be in a similar spot. I think if you can cut, as we were talking about Drew Smiley, if you can cut some of those bad depth signings and use that money more productively, and we've seen plenty of them over the years, and those are hard marginal moves to get right. A lot of teams don't get those right. But they've wasted a lot of money over the last 2 years on the bottom of their roster that has been horrible, like truly horrible, like worst in the league, horrible. If you can improve in that, I think we end up in the same place where it's like, if PCA is indeed a 6-win player and Michael Busch plays like this and Isaac Paredes remembers to hit at Wrigley Field, et cetera, they'll be in the mix. And it's, one of those kind of coin flip things. I think that's the cycle that we're in. It's going to ebb and flow kind of around that level. So my answer in, are they confident they're going to do whatever it takes to win the division? 5%, 0. I think they're going to do something like this, and it might work. That's what I think. And as we've said a million times, I don't think that the Chicago Cubs should be having a "it might work" philosophy. That's what the problem is. So I don't know. That's my roundabout answer.
Yeah, if I grow wings, I might fly. What are the odds I'm going to grow?
I think you would soar,
well, you're right. I'm probably more of a soar. You're right. It could happen, but if that's the path you're going to take, it's the wrong path.
I would love to think that, Luke. If we're sitting here in, like, call it February or March, and we're on those couches projecting 93 wins, and like we are all like, they are winning the division this year. They did it. They built that roster. Like the Chicago Cubs are back. I'll be stunned. I think we're going to be having the same conversations. Like, I believe in this guy. I think they could do it,
I'll ask Corey. I want to get your guys' take on this too, though. If this offseason, though, is different, and let's just say for a second Jed's job is on the line, does that add 10% to this? I'm with you on the whatever it takes. I don't think the Cubs will do whatever it takes because they've been pretty clear publicly. You've mentioned very accurately about length of contract, probably the number in front of the hundreds of millions of dollars that they would dish out, but this sort of feels like maybe back against the wall. And I just take any sport, for example, some of these front office guys will do desperate things. So, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's always possible, right? Like a guy is potentially playing with chips that he doesn't have to worry about in 5 years. So you never know. But Tom's still got to write the checks. So, there's certain things where it's like, well, he can't just do whatever he wants. I think it comes down to a belief of threading a needle, like that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to thread a very, very small needle with what they're trying to do. It's possible. It's like you have a quarterback, he's throwing into triple coverage. He might make the throw. He can. Some guys throw dimes. Like it might happen. But is it the right decision? Should you make the throw? Like, probably not, like there's probably a safer, more reliable option. So it's definitely possible, but he's just shown to be so risk averse. I'm not sure that the lack of a contract is going to change that. And I also think, unfortunately, there's a large question. He didn't get an extension, which of course would have answered this. But like, I don't know that I get the impression that Tom is all that displeased with how he's operated. Like, they've gone into the last 2 Septembers loosely. I'm on such a small screen, I can't even fit my air quotes in there. They've gone into the last 2 Septembers loosely in the playoff race. In this September, really decidedly up until, about 2 weeks ago. And the ballpark is not completely full on a night like tonight, certainly, but they're still making money. They still got their concerts. Like, idiots like me are going to give them the money for the season tickets. Like, I don't know that Tom is all that displeased to the point that Jed might not feel like, no, I'll get a new contract. Like, as long as we kind of keep on this pace, our farm system is top, whatever, PCA is doing his thing. They can mention that in the letter we send out to all the fans to tell them we're improving. I guess I just mean I'm not 100% sold that the fire really is on him. We think it is, but for all intents and purposes, Tom might be like, hey, you know what? You can take the $220 million, do whatever you want, as long as we're not out of it in June, like the White Sox. Great, fine. People will still show up. I don't care.
Yeah. Marquis motto next year: we're not the White Sox.
Yeah.
Kenley Jansen, everybody, come on down. Let's do it,
There
right?
you go.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So what was the question again?
What to him? The question was, Luke said, what percentage would you say the Chicago Cubs are, your faith in the Chicago Cubs doing whatever it takes this offseason?
Yeah, it's 0%. I have no faith. I have zero expectation for this offseason. I said it in the rant yesterday on the podcast,
which was awesome, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like it. Someone called me a lard ass today on the internet.
That was about the Brewer stuff. Did you see Cody trying to draw in the haters?
Well, I'd stick up for my guy Greg Braggs Jr. because the Brewers escalators ruined his ACLs. Okay,
true.
Anyway,
plural.
The point, 2, not 1, 2. I have no expectations because last offseason was such a pivotal offseason in terms of taking that next step, and the fact that they somehow managed to go over the luxury tax and still not do enough. It's just like for instance, someone in the chat, I think it was Niran, said that like not making a mistake will still get you fired or whatever. It's like, but Jed has made plenty of mistakes on the margins. Trey Mancini, Tucker Barnhart,
also on the payroll, right?
Yeah, it's like the marginal signings have been terrible. Like I think some of the trades have been good. I think obviously the Michael Busch trade, like we've talked about, has been good for this team. For now, sure.
I said that for Barb.
Yeah, for Barb, because she still thinks that Jackson Ferris is going to be a Hall of Famer, even though he hasn't even been like to AAA yet. But whatever. I think some of the trades have done well. Obviously, the PCA for Javi Baez one has
like a winner.
Has looked like an absolute fleece job, right? Kevin Alcantara is a top 100 prospect in Iowa who came back for Rizzo, and, Killian and Canario for Bryant, whatever. I mean, I don't know. Bryant is, people are wondering if Bryant's going to retire, because he can't stay on the field. Like, that one's kind of a wash. I still have some hope for Killian because I think he can make a place into the bullpen. Canario, I feel like they need to trade him, but like the way they've managed Canario, it's like, he was never a top 100 prospect guy, but I think there was some optimism within the or within the fan base that maybe he could be a guy because he had a 30-plus homer season in the minor leagues, and you call him up and then you sit him for a week after you give him a bat. I think Craig gave him a little bit more of an opportunity when he got called up this year when Seiya got hurt. So I'll give Craig some credit there. That said, Canario didn't really take advantage of the opportunity. But yeah, it's just like for me, Jed, it's not just the fact that they haven't really made a big move on the free agent market like an Ohtani or, those big names. It's not even just that. It's more about even the smaller moves that you're actually putting a lot of faith into working out, like a lot of people in the chat have mentioned a lot of the dead money. As much as I love the guy and have defended him, picking up the option for Kyle Hendricks wasn't exactly a great decision. He's making $16.5 million this year,
They could have done that with John Lester. Instead, they kicked him out the door. So it's a little bit of, there's a tiny little hypocrisy there when you talk about legacy Cubs. Yeah.
I think the Hendricks thing is more about the fact what he means to the organization, all these things. He was coming off a 3.75 or whatever earn run average season after an injury, whatever. He's still older. You know what I mean? Like, as much as I supported it, it doesn't matter what I think. It's about what the front office thinks. You know what I mean? Like, they, even in times where they haven't made a move, it's turned out to be a mistake sometimes as well. So I think it's a larger scale than just the fact that they haven't been in on the top of the free agent market too.
Yeah, one of my fears in general is, and I've talked to you guys about this when we're watching the games here, is that when we talked, you guys mentioned earlier about David Ross or Craig Counsell plays the kids, right? That's one of his things that he's supposed to be known for, and that's something that he's supposed to bring along. I'm sure this season and into the winter, we're going to give Counsell some sort of modicum of credit for bringing PCA along, not benching him. David Ross probably would have given at least 120 of those at-bats to Tauchman at some point along the way. Stuck with the Amaya, right? I mean, Amaya at least turned it around a little bit. And I'm just worried that as a Cubs fan, success is not always linear, and not everyone comes up and progresses at the same time, but pizza does.
Yeah, I'll take this one.
Which one?
I left a set and ate mine.
It's delicious.
Yeah, I was going to.
And that's the worry.
I
Is
stepped
wait
out.
till Casey comes.
I've enjoyed the conversation, to be honest with you.
You
It's
didn't
very
even think about the
therapeutic.
pizza.
I wasn't thinking about the pizza, as hungry as I've been.
Let me read the AP story.
Before
that
you
is,
you do that, Luke, I'm I think 3 miles away. Cody knows my is Sarah bringing me pizza or no?
No, she's bringing Sunnyside.
Even better. Great. Deal.
AP story from Miami. Just listen to the way this is movie stuff, right? Shohei Ohtani became the first player in Major League history to hit 50 home runs and steal 50 bases in a season when he homered 3 times in the game, stole 2 bases to lead the Dodgers to a playoff-clinching 20-4 rout. Ohtani also became the first player with 3 home runs and 2 steals in a game ever. He doubled twice in the game as well, had a career-best 6 hits, set the Dodgers record with 10 RBIs. His 51 homers broke the franchise record in L.A. The Dodgers star started the day with 2 home runs and 1 steal shy of the 50-50 mark. He doubled to lead off the game, then swiped third to get the steals, yada, yada. Ohtani homered in the 6th, 438-foot shot. Ohtani was mobbed by his Dodger teammates when he reached the crowd, emerged from the dugout for a curtain call in the 9th. By the way, he almost had a cycle. He was thrown out at third, attempting to stretch a double into a triple.
Oh, overpaid.
The Dodgers clinched their 12th straight playoff berth while okay. That is all you should need to show. And I understand he's the unicorn, but he's the unicorn that was open on the free market. Yeah, I know. He wanted to go to the Dodgers. He only wanted to go to the Dodgers. He had a plan for the Dodgers to work. I understand all that. That is what we are craving. We are craving a player, not specifically Ohtani because it didn't happen, but they kicked the fake tires on it. If you would have offered $200 million more to the guy, he would have taken it. That's just the reality of any deal. I don't care how much you wanted to live in LA. You just said $100 million more, $200 million more. You're at least going to make them think about it. We know it didn't happen. They could have done it with Harper. They could have done it. They could do it with Soto. And Soto might not be Ohtani. If I could take one guy next year, Ohtani, Judge, or Soto, I'd take Ohtani. Do you realize he's doing all this while not even playing his position this year? He's doing it as a DH. Can we just have somebody? Can we have one superstar? it makes you flash back and think of all the great players that have waved the hat.
Andre Dawson's one of them.
Andre Dawson. It takes you back to Sammy. It takes you back to Rhino. It takes you back to KB. Can we have a superstar in Chicago? Every team is as mid as it gets. Can the Cubs just go out and spend some money, lots of money, because they've got it, and give us someone that we can put on a pedestal, right or wrong? Did you listen to what I was saying this guy did in one game? There is no price tag. He's already paid for himself.
He's like paid for himself, Luke, man.
But you know what I'm saying? Like that article right there means the guy, he's a big deal in LA. Can you imagine what that guy would be like at Wrigley Field right now?
With the amount of sports teams that are here compared to LA, yeah. He would be the biggest
star
in
LA,
town.
We'd be
like
debating
the Dodgers.
Caleb Williams for Shohei Ohtani. Who's bigger in this city, and I bet you money would be really close.
Listen, people in LA like sports. Yeah. They like sports. I understand it. People here beg for sports. They beg for a sports hero. In LA, Ohtani is no different than Brad Pitt walking down the street. It's the same thing.
And he'll never be Kobe in that town. So,
but that's what I'm saying. Like, our superheroes are athletes. Nobody in Chicago cares if Oprah's walking down the street. I used to go to a gym where she worked on the ab machine, and you know what? I didn't care.
Was Walter Jacobson there too? Was it the whole line of the guys?
Oprah used to be at the gym and work out in sunglasses. It was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever seen.
Oh, man.
And I saw it multiple times. She'd be like undercover in her sunglasses, and she's Oprah Winfrey. Great. We love her. Yeah, yada, yada. She gave away lots of stuff. If that person would have been Ohtani, people would have been breaking the windows at that gym to try and get in and see him work out.
Yeah.
Give the people what they want.
Yeah.
Give Soto $100 million more than anybody else will. He won't turn it down.
I think it, you know, we have this, unfortunately, we've been having different versions of this conversation for like 2 years now. But what I think it boils down to is like sometimes it's viewed as kind of either this or that. Like you want them to do more and get these stars, or you think that they're like doing anything worthwhile as an organization. And both things can be true. Like that's where the disconnect kind of happens. Cause like sometimes when we go on these rants, the comments will be filled with stuff like, you know, you have to be patient. Some of those contracts are bad, this or that. And it's like, it's all nuanced. It doesn't have to be one or the other. What I think is fair and something I would stand on, and I think everybody that's, you know, currently on here would stand on, is asking for more from this organization is quite reasonable. And when you have 2 years in a row where all the computers and prognosticators and podcasters and all looked at you and said, this team's probably not good enough to make the playoffs. And both years they were exactly right.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about an organization that hasn't made a real playoff season since 2017, it's fair to ask for more. And I think earlier, like, you know, Luke, you were saying like, why don't we ask them to be the Dodgers or something like that? I don't ever expect them to spend that type of money. And I've given up on kind of caring about that. They do spend. It's better than most teams in the league. It's way better than everybody in their division. And
what are they, ninth? Are they ninth?
This year, maybe.
Yeah,
but
this year I think they're ninth, maybe.
Yeah, and like in other years, I expect if they were really good at this deadline, I expect they would have pushed in a little more, maybe into the second or third tier of the tax, whatever it is. But I think asking more of this organization is not an unfair hill to die on, and being. And you can do that while thinking they're doing good things. But like I said, it just has to happen faster, man. Like it's a nice process. It's going well in a lot of directions, but I just don't know how many more seasons like we can just sit here hoping that they get over 84 wins. And sometimes you have to make those moves that decidedly put you there. And it may make for some uncomfortable trades or conversations with guys and things like that. But what's the other choice? The other choice is to just keep doing this thing. And as you said, Luke, like the Cubs, with where they stand in their valuation as an organization, their history as an organization, and the fan base that they have, they should be in that conversation of where superstars want to play and an organization that embraces them to come here.
That's the part that really grinds my gears, is that, just in my opinion, I think Chicago and the Chicago Cubs, and you know what? I'm actually probably going to put the Boston Red Sox in here too as well. There's something about these two franchises that if Ohtani did what he did today in a Chicago Cubs uniform, and granted he did it in Miami, so I'm not saying that it would have happened at Wrigley. I'm just saying for the sport at large and for America, I think that there's more eyeballs on it, and I think that there's more casual interest. I know that LA and New York can be polarizing for people, especially in middle America, of whether we care about them or not. But it just bothers me so much that it isn't so much about the numbers on paper for a Juan Soto. It's about a legacy that you can build in a city and all the other money that comes around that peripherally, which I was hoping what the pitch was going to be to Shohei Ohtani in the first place. And I don't know, maybe it's because I'm from Chicago and I love the Chicago Cubs, but I just feel like Juan Soto in a Chicago Cubs uniform hitting home runs and taking his team to the playoffs means more than if he did it in a Yankees uniform, because it's the Boston Celtics, right? You're not going to get your number retired. There's thousands of them. You're just one in a long line of many. And if you go to the Washington Nationals, okay, whatever. Seattle Mariners, if you do it in a Chicago Cubs uniform, for some of these superstars, the city can be yours, and I think national attention can also be yours too as well. So that's the part that always really bothers me with these negotiations with Harper and whatever. I just think some of these guys can run this town and make a ton of money, but it just never seems to happen as the Cubs tie the game. Good job, Belly.
I by the way, I seen the chat, and this is correct. The Red Sox fans are angry too. I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand. We're not alone in this. I get it. Like, other teams struggle and their fan base gets angry. But as Niren said, what is it? What did Niren just say? 14 years, 4 good seasons, 10. He's not wrong. Like, it's been 4 good seasons in 15 years. They were the golden era of Cubs baseball.
Yeah.
But also we were putting that up against, that wasn't a very high bar. It was a great stretch of 4 seasons, but it wasn't a very high bar to be the best in Cubs history or to be the golden era.
Matt Stairs 2000 Cubs were still like in my like top 5 echelon of like the 88 win team. I was like, oh, that was a great year. Like, that was still part of my life at that time.
We talk about, and to me, rightfully so, because I lived through it. We talk about the Sandberg game before the World Series like it was the World Series. And it's a great game. It's my favorite game as a kid growing up, yada, yada, yada. Can you imagine what a game like what Ohtani just did would be like in this city?
Oh,
I mean, seriously, even to talk like what he did tonight. We just talked about the Kerry Wood game. It's one of the great, maybe the greatest pitched game in baseball history. I got to tell you what Ohtani just did today has got to be one of the best games in baseball history. Has to be.
Ooh, hot question. How many beer bats would you do if Ohtani was on the Cubs and he drove in 10 runs to clinch the playoffs, hit 3 bombs? I mean, at least a back-to-back.
Cody
maybe
be in
2
treatment.
spread out.
That's where he'd be. He'd be in treatment.
There is audio of me saying that I would have moved to St. Louis if the Cubs had actually signed Ohtani. But I guess that's the only good news on why they didn't.
I moved home because they drafted Caleb, so, we do crazy things
every
in life.
time Ohtani does something amazing, I'm just like,
Yeah.
and I know it wasn't realistic, and I know he probably didn't want to come here, but it's just a long list of players
2 things
that have not come here where I think they had a shot at least one of them.
2 things can be true. It takes 2 to tango.
Yep.
But also, there is a long list. Like, you want to
That's
talk
it.
about, you want
That's
to
a
talk,
long list.
You want to talk about realistic ones. Bryce Harper Manny Machado.
Sitting there. Yeah.
You know? Corey Seager. You know, you traded all those guys in 22 or in 21. You went to the offseason, and Corey Seager was available. You know what I mean?
Talking about Michael Bush a lot differently if Manny Machado's playing third base. 100%.
Here's what
When we're getting these guys that are playing well and a hard time.
And as much as I supported the direction they chose when they traded Bryant, Rizzo, Baez, all of them, as much as I supported it and also was in pain at the same time, I understood it. You also, because you are the Cubs, shouldn't have been going through the second rebuild in 10 years, you know? So it's like, maybe if they had signed Seager, maybe that's them taking a shortcut. Maybe it's, they signed Seager so it gets people to come to the ballpark, whatever. But we're not sitting here in 2-3 years after you rebuild things talking about this team doesn't have a star, you know?
100%.
So I think there's fair things in the scenario of it all that you can argue what was the good of that decision, of those decisions, and the bad of those decisions.
Benjamin Nelson in the chat has a poll he would like us for the four of us, and I think Sarah, you could put it up on the poll for the chat. It says, quick poll for you. Which is more to blame for the Cubs' lack of success since 2017? Is it A, a lack of spending, or B, how they spent what they did? And my cheap answer to that is yes.
Yes.
That's the problem. It's both. It's both. Correct. Yes. 100%.
Well,
for me,
go ahead.
I would say lack of spending. I'm not saying that they haven't spent and they have spent incorrectly. It's still lack of spending, because for me, the real spending would have been throwing down and getting one of these superstar players. And if you stick one of these superstar players in this lineup, I don't care who your closer is, you're still in the conversation. Yeah. You're still in the conversation, because all of a sudden Ian Happ's 25 home runs look pretty good on one side, and 21 on the other side look pretty good if the other guy you're talking about has got 51.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would say,
because I'm still mad they didn't get Judge. I was all over the Judge train, right? I was like,
also the
throw $400 million at Judge. Here's one
had to have a career year, and they had to throw him the boat, right?
Okay, Soto. Everybody's like, they're never going to get him, right? Mm-hmm. No, be creative. Tell the guy, all right, what's the average you're looking for? And he's going to price, I want $50 million a season or $60 million a season. All right, here's a 3-year deal, and we're going to give you $120 million a year, and you're going to be able to go get the big bag again after 3 years if you want it. And if you're as great as we think you are, we're going to win the World Series. We're going to give you the next bag, and you're going to get it either way. But you're still going to give him $400 million for 3 years. I don't care.
Yeah.
Do something bold. Whatever he wants, whatever his agent said, this is what I'm looking for, then find a creative way to do something different. I don't think they took the deferred money deal to everybody, Ohtani. But you've got to come up with an idea like that. Like, what's it going to take? What would it take? Would it really hurt us that bad if we spent $400 million and went way over the luxury tax with this guy for 1 year? Well, you could defer it for the next 10 years.
Be a hell of a year, though. As a fan.
That's what I'm saying. You'd have 3 unbelievable years. Yeah. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm not paid to do that.
I am going to weigh in on this, and forgive me, this is my first time, so if this sounds like a hedge, I am going to say trick question, because my answer to this question
on the poll,
is Nick Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber, and Anthony Rizzo, 3 guys that were in-house solutions that I think that we should have signed money to. We can all disagree on how it all would have turned out, but I think at least the results and the success would have had a little bit more stability if we had signed any of those 3 guys.
Well, you definitely wouldn't have a power problem if you had Schwarber still. Castellanos, the whole thing with Castellanos, I know he hasn't been very good with the Phillies, and it's not showing, though, because they have Bryce Harper, Schwarber, Trey Turner. There's Alec Boehm was an all-star this year.
He did slow first half this year, too, yeah.
But the fact that you let Castellanos go to the Reds on the deal that he got, I think that's the biggest thing that annoys me about that. And I know there was no DH at the time anyway, and they had Hayward to play right field, and you would rather want Hayward playing right field than Castellanos as far as defense. But at the time, I guess you can argue that it would have been tough to find a way to get Castellanos in the lineup. But you knew what Hayward was at that point offensively, and I just feel like considering how much you got paid from the Reds, the fact that you got outbid by the Reds for a guy like that who ignited your offense the second half of 2019, the fact that you didn't bring him back to me is it's right up there with non-tendering Schwarber in my opinion. So
I think I would also vote trick question. I think the answer is potentially letter C, which I would say is lack of internal development and sticking with guys too long, which is something that Theo himself admitted. As you see, and obviously some of it you couldn't have predicted, right? I don't think there was any reason for you to predict that Chris Bryant's career would trend the way that it did, or even that Schwarbs would have the struggles that he did at the end of his tenure, things like that. But you look at this team now and we look at the significant contributions that they've gotten in their rotation from guys like Justin Steele and Javier Assad and, Jordan Wicks, even with the injury or the bad start the other night, who cares, right? You weren't getting that at the time. And instead what you were doing is sticking with guys like Albert Almora because you picked them in the first round way too long, years too long. So I like I said, to me, when you're the Chicago Cubs and you're in a situation going into 2018 or 2019 more specifically, when you have the opportunities to look at the team and say, you know what, it's expensive, but it's got these flaws, we need to fix them or they're going to kind of ruin this season. That's when they needed to spend money. They needed to spend the money to ensure that those teams were going to succeed, even though the payroll was bloated. So in certain instances, it's a lack of spending. But year in, year out, they spend more money than at least 2/3 of the league. I wouldn't blame Tom if he was like, yeah, you're going to make that work. I'm not going to spend $500 million. I'm going to give you more than everybody in your division and most of the league. If you can't make it work, that's your problem. That's just what it is. I don't agree with that philosophy, but I wouldn't blame him for having it. And as far as spending on the wrong players, that's a tough thing because a lot of the moves they made, as we talked about, were believed to be the right move at the time. Everybody wanted Jason Hayward. I wanted Jason Hayward. I thought that was a slam dunk contract, a slam dunk move. Going into 2019, everybody wanted Craig Kimbrell all off season. They didn't do it until the middle of the season because they freed up some money. And then he was bad. It happens, sometimes things don't work out. So I think the real thing that cost them, if you're looking at the real answer for a long time, they stuck with guys for too long because they drafted them, they developed them, or they were their guys and they believed in them. And they didn't supplement that enough with internal talent. You didn't have those answers. Hey, we need a closer in 2019. Okay, well, you don't have one. Hey, we need an extra starter. Well, you don't have one. You have to keep paying older guys and trotting out some of these things. And I think that's really where the problem came in, which is interesting to square now because now feels like you do have a system that is capable of providing all of that. You need to just make sure that the everyday roster is slightly better. And then instead of waiting for Matt Shaw to save the day and take us to the promised land, he's got an opportunity to be a significant contributor in a smaller role, just coming in and helping a good team get better. But I don't know if that's the position they're going to put him in. They might ask him to make a decent team good, which is a failed premise. But so my answer is C to the poll. I made up my own answer.
We all dodged the question.
I don't think I answered
the poll is up, by the way.
What is the question again? What are the options?
What's to blame for the Cubs' failure since 2017? Is it a lack of spending or how they spent the money? That's
I
basically
mean, if
the
you want
gist
me-
of the question.
I can be the one guy who actually answers the question.
Do it.
Credit
Dare
to you. Credit to you.
Yeah.
Man of integrity. Answer the question.
Because people will tell me I'm wrong anyway.
Man of the
You
people.
can't handle the truth.
So what was it again?
Is it the
The
lack
lack
of
of
spending,
spending.
or is it the way they spent their money?
Yeah, I can see why you guys said C. Lack of spending, the way he spent. What Corey said is what I agree with the most out of everyone, because that was a big part. The fact that they couldn't develop homegrown pitching, especially.
Yeah.
I think they could have got by a lot further.
But if you
they
can only
would have been
pick
able to do, if they would have been able to develop homegrown pitching better.
I'd change my answer. I think. I don't know. I could argue it either way. I think both are true.
I'll just say for the way they spent money, because of the way they spent money, it led to them not spending money, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I'm with Corey. Like, I wanted Jason Hayward on this team going
too.
into 2016. Like I said, he was the number one positional player on the free agent market. Now, at the same time, big market teams, and we've seen it many times, when things don't work out, they cut ties.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They could have ate the money. At the end of Jason Hayward's tenure with the Cubs, it was almost like he was kind of the villain in this city, and it's just like he should have never been looked at like that, because he was part of the 2016 team. And in my opinion, they don't win it without him, because his defense was that good. And we've watched Seiya Suzuki play right field, and we've watched other players not named Cody Bellinger play right field over these last handful of years, and you see the value that Jason Hayward had in right field defensively.
100%.
And I will say he did have better offensive seasons after 2016, and it kind of goes into the whole, like, first impression, everyone just thinks that's what he is all the time. And obviously in 2016, offensively, Jason Hayward wasn't very good. He had, 2 hits in the entire postseason in 2016. He had very little to do with how they scored runs, right? But so I guess the point I'm getting to is that you could have cut ties earlier, perhaps at the very least after 2021. Or if you really wanted Bryce Harper or Machado, and because you are the Chicago Cubs, and because you're worth as much as you are, screw it. You could have cut ties and signed Harper, and he could have been in your right field anyway, a lot earlier.
PCA just got picked off. What do they call him?
Someone.
They call him Bach. I think they're calling him
He
Bach.
is yelling.
I think they're calling Bach.
Interesting. Oh, Davey
Dave
Martinez.
Martinez, baby.
I was once at a
Talk about stirring the echoes. Let's go.
I was once at a Nationals Cubs game where he
Bach,
got very pissed and threw a base. That was a few years ago.
Did you see, Dusty Baker's son has 3 hits in this game
I did see that.
and just made the air at
Don't
first.
do it to me.
But it's just it's just crazy to see him on a field.
It is, especially after that highlight of the guy who picks him up.
That's what he's saying.
Well, not just
he
that,
moved the leg
I-
forward. There you go.
Like for me, I
Time flies.
covered Dusty, so I remember him as a little kid.
Yeah.
I didn't know him, but he was at the ballpark every day. He was running around on the field, and you feel like, oh, look at
I'm a
there
freshman
goes
in
Darren.
college when he's picking
Right?
him up at
Yeah.
home plate.
There goes Darren.
Giants, Angels.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Time flies. He's playing in the big leagues.
Dave Martinez never hit with gloves. Loved him for it.
He's like moist hands.
Yeah, he
Alou.
was a gloveless hitter. Always appreciated that.
Steven, a super chat. Is it bad that I have to root for the demise of the Ricketts? Well, I don't think they're selling the team.
And,
Yeah, I don't think they're
and
selling
look,
the
I
team
would
either.
tell you, I can't remember where it was, but I'm sure we've all read that piece inside the White Sox about Jerry Reinsdorf. Look, there is 8 years of podcast audio. My stance on the ownership of this team is quite clear. All I would say, though, is it can get light years worse, to a level that until I read that article, I wasn't quite sure was possible. So
Yeah.
I mean, look no further than in the organization. I mean, the previous owners of the Chicago Cubs,
Yeah. Tribune.
the people that they put in charge,
Well-
the way that they ran their.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not defending the Ricketts family, but are they not the best owner in Cubs history? Again, I'm not saying the bar is low or high.
Are they the best ownership in Chicago sports right now?
I think you can still make
Yes.
the argument, yes, because until the Bears start winning,
That says more about other stuff than it does about the Ricketts. But I mean, yeah, that's
maybe the
we
Blackhawks
may not-
can be up there.
We may not like what the Ricketts family has done currently, but they did take the go-ahead. First of all, they went and got Theo.
Yeah.
And then they said, here it is, man. We'll take the losses, strip it down. There's not very many owners that'll say that to hire a guy and pay him big money and then say, go ahead, strip it down. It hasn't worked.
Well, and
It
you know,
won a
look,
World
like,
Series.
At the end of the day, like, again, I always hedge this because I never want it to be taken out of context. They should always spend more money.
Yes.
They should be printing. They said they were going to print money, but they should be able to at Wrigley Field with
Especially
this
with
fan base,
Marquee.
et cetera, right? And marquee, whatever. They're
sports book.
I don't
doing.
know if they've said they'd print
Oh.
money, but Crane said they were printing
That
money.
was the,
basically.
that was
that is
the
what-
pitch.
Wheelbarrows.
with Marquee
Well,
and
there you go.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, we're getting close to a decade now, are getting pantsed by a team that spends like $130 million a year, every year. So like whether you think the Cubs should spend more money, the Brewers are beating them year in, year out since 2018, basically. And they're not spending anywhere close to you. So at a minimum, it highlights that you're not spending that extra money particularly like successfully. And you can have whatever takeaway you want, but it just I feel like, again, with a lot of things, both things can be true. I want them to spend more money, but in a single year, you could look and go, they needed to spend more money. Like they messed that up. Like the contracts played out the way they did. But over this long of a sample, it's like the money should have worked better than it has. The return on investment has not been great over the last 7 years or so, I would say.
That the Brewers, you can't. That's no argument since they won the World Series. The Brewers have pretty much owned the division for the most part, right?
Since
And-
the Cubs won the World Series, Luke, I just want to clarify that because
Oh
the
yeah,
Brewers have never
we all
won a
know the
World
Brewers
Series.
have never won anything.
Okay.
But so then they tried.
Zero
So then they
championships.
tried to pay their manager $40 million. I thought, well, that'll make the difference.
Right.
But again, just like I said with the Diamondbacks, I can see what Corey's saying, and I agree with that part of it. But I can also see the other side, which you can always see two sides of something. I can also see the Ricketts saying, well, the Brewers keep winning and they aren't spending that money. So why should we? We just need to make the right moves. Well, then you need to make the right moves.
That's the next step, though, right? Where you bring Carter Hawkins over from the Cleveland Indians because you want their pitch lab. You want them to
That's
grow and
right.
develop pitchers like that. The same way that the Andrew Friedmans of the world end up with the Los Angeles Dodgers. But there is one crucial step after this to bring it home is you got to write them checks a little bit. And you got to go for it when the time is nigh. And the time is now, this offseason.
Where's the poll at, Sarah?
I never actually fully finished like my answer, but
Oh,
I think
I'm sorry.
I think I got to the point of it is the fact that like there should never be like a signing a contract that holds you back from trying to fix the problem. I think the Padres have been a great example of that in recent years. Maybe more so on the trade market because they did everything they could to get Juan Soto, and then they traded him, and here they are. In the wild
Jackson
card.
Merrill,
and
totally.
with Jackson Merrill, and like they're still remaining relevant. They've acknowledged their mistakes, and I'm not saying that them trading for Juan Soto was a mistake. However, they didn't make the playoffs with him, and so maybe it was something within their clubhouse that didn't mix well. Whatever it is, I don't know. I don't care. All I know is that when things don't go right, they fix the problem. We watched the same thing over and over for like 3 years after 2017 with the Cubs. And now we are in this stretch with this new, like, quote-unquote core players that we have now watched the same thing the last 2 years, and they haven't fixed the problems. It's like, whether it's spending money or not spending enough or not spending it correctly, like, at the end of the day, that's what it feels like in general. It's just like every organization makes mistakes. Not every signing works out, but the best teams, the best organizations
fix things at a quicker level. And the Cubs have the ability to do that. They could have cut Jason Hayward and signed Bryce Harper if they really wanted to. If they really wanted to. If they really wanted to win, they could, or if they wanted to keep Hayward, they could have traded Happ and Almora, and you could have moved Hayward to center and played Harper in right field. You know what I mean? Like, they could have found a way. And I think that's my biggest thing.
They're 2 outs away, not from clinching, but from
winning this game.
And now
guy,
they're
Porter
Hodgson
for the
but he now will have a runner at second base. Abrams doubles.
Can our guy not blow the save while we're live on YouTube?
Steven, I love that you're always on our show. I could not disagree more. The Cubs are not like the White Sox in some ways right now. The Sox are.
I don't think you've spent enough time on the South Side.
The Sox are so
35th in Shield.
They are so outrageously bad and so outrageously far away from being anything that, as upset as I am with a mid team in a division that should have been theirs easily, man, I can't. They're not even. All you got to do is ask Herb and Sean.
I think
Herb and Sean will tell you it's not the same thing.
I was gonna
that
say,
does
someone
kind of reflect a little bit of what we talked about, where it's like, this isn't a bad organization. It's not a desolate situation, or we've seen in our life, even just like in Cody and I's lifetime, like horrible states of this organization. No prospects, no good players, no like prospect of anything, as you guys were just talking about, bad ownership, like et cetera. They're not in that place. The question is the place they're at good enough for the standard that we want? I can't answer that for every Cubs fan. My answer is no. But it's like the White Sox are a train wreck. Like, the Cubs are nowhere. They got a lot of good stuff going on. Is it good enough to win a World Series? Not at this moment. But that's not even a similar conversation.
Thankfully,
I think he's trying to compare the ownership, and again, I may hold the Ricketts family to a higher standard, but I can't compare the ownership either.
Yeah,
I can't.
As you should, with the ticket prices the way that they are, the way that they redid the neighborhood, the way that they changed everying about it. They created a standard.
By the way, they did it with their own money.
That is a two-way street, and we have expectations.
They do it with their own money. They didn't ask for $1 billion.
Yeah, and we're still paying off the. We're still paying off the sell.
It isn't. I mean, read that article. It's not the same thing. Yeah. Read the article in the Athletic. It's not the same thing.
Whole question: White Sox spending money or not spending money? The computer explodes. Like, it doesn't. No.
Chef Kevin, Chicago sports are a train wreck. Yeah. I hope that changes Sunday. By the way, if you're watching this and you're a Bears fan, we do have the watch party Sunday at Joe's on Weed Street. The deal is this. Go to our website, sign up, and get your tickets. $65 is all you can drink from 11:30 to the end of the game. It's going to be a party. There's TVs everywhere. We had a great time for the draft party there. Joe's on Weed Street. It's roughly North Avenue and
Clybourne-ish?
Clybourne.
It's in Lincoln
Park. Close
Park.
to there. Yeah, Lincoln Park. It's near the Apple Store. It's kind of a walking distance to the Apple Store. Going to be a good time. They're going to have Bears giveaways. Lance Briggs will be there. Alex Brown's going to be there. Corey Wooten's going to be there.
Emma's going to be there, who was on the show earlier.
Cody Delmendo.
Cody will
Greg
be there.
Braggs.
His ACLs.
Greg Braggs and his busted ACLs, thanks to the Brewers, will be there.
I like this matchup of Hodge versus
we got a
James
Friday
Wood.
120 tomorrow, too.
And that was a great 3-1 pitch.
On your feet. What are we going to do?
I know the stream is behind. The stream is behind. Do not ruin it for me, Sarah. Or chat.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Tyne run at third. Porter Hodge.
We're going to move on to the next one.
Well, that's all right.
That's okay. That's a good, like, I honestly don't hate that as much as that puts the go-ahead run on first base. It's like he didn't just give in and throw him a meatball for him to hit out of the park either. Yeah. So
not even trying to work that.
You had a base open. You got 2 outs.
I'm going to stick with you guys till the end of this, and then.
Well, yeah, we got to do post game. We have post game right after.
Yeah,
as soon as this
haven't
is
had
over,
enough of us.
We have post game right after, so you can.
We've been almost 3 hours now.
Yeah, this for your standards, Luke. This is actually good pace.
Ish.
I know you wish they were all 2 hours.
It's
but that's
felt
just
fast. No, it's
unrealistic.
felt faster than
That's because you're having fun. Time
and-
flies
and
when
a
you're
free
having
pizza.
fun.
I am thinking about getting
Well,
a
and
slice.
you know, for all the discussion that we've had, they lost a series to the Athletics that, if you had any hope of them making the playoffs, certainly crashed that. They're about to win a game against the lowly Washington Nationals, and we've got ourselves a standing ovation of what looks like, I would say 29K, something like that. So,
They lost 4 out of 6 to the A's and Rockies. And mic drop.
Ronnie Bro at the plate.
And by the way, my takeaway of that, because sometimes that gets weird too, is that these fans, as Cody always says, deserve better than this.
Yeah.
They're there. They're ready to die, bleed and die for this team, and this is what we're left with. So,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I don't blame people who are like, you shouldn't go to the ballpark, blah, blah, blah. This at the same time, like, I ain't gonna tell fans how to fan either,
No, I do. That's a sin of the ownership. People like enjoying Wrigley Field and baseball games with their friends and family. Like, that's not their fault that they're not staging some sort of boycott, which, as we all know, would lead to exactly what Luke just said. If people stop going to the games, the Ricketts would go, well, the Brewers do it with $120 million, so we'll just give you less money. Yeah.
Get your tickets at Subway.
That was a great. What was that? Sweeper?
The good news is Wrigley doesn't have escalators. We don't have escalators. By the way, 52% on our poll are saying it's how they spent the money. 48% say they.
Oh my God.
Well, he got way under that pitch.
Yep,
he hung that. He got
7-6,
lucky.
Big win.
We'll take
big
it. Hey,
win.
that's a save for Porter Hodge, folks. That's a save for Porter Hodge.
All right.
Good
So
for his
we'll be back in a
development.
little bit with a give us maybe 10 minutes, Sarah? Got to write up a title and description. Oh, thanks, Jake.
Come on.
We're at least gonna hold it up.
That's
the
for
March
watch
to
the W's for
83.
watch party.
The March to 83, Corey.
The March to 84 for all those
did it.
83.5 bettors.
We did it.
I know my guy Blake. He has that $1,000 bet on 83.5. So
Hey, shout
this
out
is a
to
good one
everybody.
for you, Blake.
Think about it.
Thanks
That's
for
like-
the live YouTube chat. Everybody that was here, and see you in the post-game show in just a bit.
Yep.
We all silly like the mayor.